Chapter 49. The Known Goo and the Unknown Strange Goo. Shen Lian realized that he had fallen into a misunderstanding. The world of goo was vast and there were hundreds of millions of them. It was impossible for people to understand all of them. The goo recorded in the human Facebook was only a small part. In fact, this was also the case on Earth. According to the statistics of the United Nations Environment Program, there were 13 to 14 million species on Earth. Some experts estimated that there were 30 to 50 million species in the biosphere. However, in the face of the vast number of species, people's understanding of them was like the entire history book. Only a few pages had been opened. After hundreds of years of research, the number of species that were recognized and named was only 13%, about 1.75 million species. Child this way. Li Shuangyang enthusiastically led the way. They shuttled through the crowd and turned into a winding path. The surroundings gradually became deserted. As they were walking, 3 people walked towards them, 1 in front and 2 behind. The young man in front was dressed in luxurious clothes, inlaid with gold and jade. He had a long sword hanging on his waist and a white feather fan in his hand. He walked leisurely. The 2 people behind him seemed to be his retinue. They were strong and arrogant. If one looked carefully, they would find that this young man looked arrogant and malicious. His pupils seemed to be flashing with some kind of strange cold light, like a poisonous snake spitting out its tongue. The path was narrow. As soon as Li Shuangyang saw this young man, his expression changed. He was a little scared and hurriedly pulled Shen Lian to make way. He lowered his head and his posture was humble. "Child, don't look at his eyes." Li Shuangyang lowered his head and suddenly said in a low voice. Shen Lian's heart skipped a beat and he turned his head. When the 3 people passed by and walked far away, Li Shuangyang raised his head and sighed. He looked at Shen Lian and sighed. Shen Lian frowned and said, "Who is this person?" Li Shuangyang looked around and lowered his voice. "Do you know Chao Yuqing? He is one of the 8 elders of New Kuan. His name is Chao Qing, Chao Yuqing's son. Why did you tell me not to look into his eyes? Chao Qing is a genius. When he was 11 years old, he obtained a strange goo. No one could refine it, but he succeeded in refining it in 3 days. After that, everyone realized that his eyes were a little strange. Anyone who met his gaze would feel dizzy, nauseous, and vomit. Their blood and qi would be greatly damaged, and they would have nightmares at night. Being stared at by him for a while would be enough to make you suffer for 7 to 8 days. If you were to fight him, then you would be even more unlucky. His eyes would emit a strange light that would continuously weaken his opponent. He would win every battle, and his strength was terrifying. There were 8 elders in New Kuan, but one of them was still vacant. Rumor had it that Chao Qing would soon be promoted to an elder. At that time, the father and son of the Chao family would both become elders. Their influence in New Kuan would soar to the sky, and it would be easy for them to fight for the position of faction master in the future. In short, he is a rising star. If you want to stay in Ronghua City, don't offend him. Shen Lian slightly squinted his eyes. You just said that he obtained a strange goo? Li Shuangyang thought of something, patted his forehead and smiled. Speaking of this, it has something to do with my father. Chao Qing came to the goo garden to select goo that year. He disdained the goo compiled in the human Facebook. He said that these goo had long been known by others, and there was a way to restrain them. So, it was meaningless to obtain them. Coincidentally, my father was also there that day, so he brought Chao Qing to the mystical goo area. Chao Qing searched there for several days and suddenly took a fancy to that mystical goo. I heard people say that Chao Qing privately called that goo disdain goo, which means that it looks down on the world and is invincible. Shen Lian heard this and couldn't help but feel a little excited. Did anyone else find a powerful goo in the goo area? Yes, come, let's talk while walking. Li Shuangyang said. 4 years ago, a person from the Central Plains came from afar, wanting to find a strange goo that had never appeared in the world. I took him to the goo area. This person was really stubborn. He searched for half a year in the goo area, and finally found an extremely strange goo. Oh, how strange! The more he was injured, the stronger he became. He became stronger when he met a strong opponent, and challenged those above his level. He named that goo bitter flesh goo. Every time he met an opponent stronger than him, he would first let himself suffer a few cuts, and after getting injured, his strength would surge, and then he would catch the opponent off guard. He repeatedly challenged those above his level, and won more than he lost. He was very famous for a while. Later, he left the northern region and went to the central plains, and I never heard of him again. What else? About 2.5 years ago, a woman entered the goo area. After searching there for half a month, she found a very powerful goo, and named it Plunder Goo. This goo's ability was unheard of. It could actually plunder the goo in other goo masters' apertures, and no one dared to fight with her. I heard that she was chosen by many sects, and was invited to join one of them. She should be an incredible person now. Plunder Goo? Xun Lian was stunned and took a deep breath, thinking, if I meet such a person and such a goo, can I still keep my life twisting goo? While talking, the two arrived at a wooden door. Knock, knock. Li Shuangyang knocked on the door. Soon, the wooden door opened, and a middle-aged woman stood inside. She was fat, even fatter than Xun Lian and Li Shuangyang combined, and was gnawing on a chicken drumstick. Deacon Duan, I'm here to introduce you to some business. Li Shuangyang rubbed his hands together and grinned. The middle-aged woman was expressionless. She glanced at Li Shuangyang, rolled her eyes and grinned. You used to call me Xiao Rongrong, but now you call me Deacon Duan. Men are all bad. Xun Lian was speechless, and his gaze moved back and forth between the two. Li Shuangyang was slightly embarrassed and looked at Xun Lian. This is my ex-girlfriend, Duan Rongrong. Xun Lian was filled with deep veneration. Duan Rongrong opened the door. Xun Lian entered and looked around. The room was like a large warehouse, and the space was huge. There were rows of shelves, and the shelves were densely packed with brocade boxes. There were a lot of them, and if there weren't 100,000, there were at least 90,000. These are all mystical goo? Xun Lian's vision was broadened. Such a large number of goo was beyond his imagination. Li Shuangyang smiled. Since the opening of the goo garden, it has accumulated year after year. Isn't it frightening? Duan Rongrong coughed. Are you clear about the rules? If you are, I want to emphasize it. Mystical goo, to put it bluntly, is an unknown goo. Nobody knows the habits and characteristics of this goo. This means that the mystical goo you choose might be a powerful goo, or it might be a harmful goo. For example, a notorious goo like the heart-eating goo might be mixed in, and might take your life if you are not careful. Thus, if you buy a mystical goo and something happens, such as being disabled or even dying, you have to bear the responsibility. The goo garden will not take any responsibility, understand? Xun Lian nodded. Then how is the price of the mystical goo calculated? Duan Rongrong chuckled. That depends on your luck. The deposit is 50,000 taels. If you get a powerful goo, no matter if it is worth 1,000,000 or 200 taels, it is yours. The goo garden will only take 100,000 taels. That is to say, you only need to spend 150,000 taels to have a chance of buying a mystical goo worth 1,000,000 taels. Of course, if you are unlucky and buy a bad goo, or even a harmful goo, the goo garden will not return the deposit, and will only take the 50,000 taels. Chapter 50. Seeing Xun Lian's hesitation, Duan Rongrong continued, Don't worry too much, these strange goo have all been checked by us. The possibility of a harmful goo is next to nothing, but finding a good goo is possible. Xun Lian chuckled and did not comment. Can I look around? Yes, look around, you can choose. Aren't you worried that someone will steal it? Don't be fooled by the large number of strange goo here. Every goo is marked. If one is missing, we can find it. Duan Rongrong said confidently. Shunlian felt it was inconceivable. The management was so lax, nothing would happen? With such a large number of strange goo, if one was missing, would you be able to find it in time? But he did not think too much about it, and quickly focused on those brocade boxes, looking at them cursorily. He did not know that after he left, Duan Rongrong took out a human face book. Some records kept appearing on the page. It was the brocade boxes Shunlian touched. In addition, there were records of Shunlian's spending when he came to the Goo Garden last time. Oh, he spent 800,000 to buy the dragon heart goo. This kid is rich. Duan Rongrong clicked her tongue and glanced at Li Shuangyang, sneering. It wasn't a coincidence that he met you. Did you already know that he was rich? Li Shuangyang immediately showed an unfathomable expression. Looking at it like this is not a solution. Inside the brocade boxes, there were goo of different shape. Shunlian opened a few brocade boxes and looked at them, and could not help but smile bitterly. He really could not find anything. If he continued looking like this, who knows when he would find it? Li Shuangyang had not left yet, so he went over to ask if there was any trick. There is no trick, but if I have to say, it is based on my feelings. Li Shuangyang spread out his hands. The goo will choose the most suitable goo master. As long as you have perseverance and persist in looking, you will find the goo that is most suitable for you. Is there a need to talk about destined to be together? Shunlian had the life-twisting venomous worm in his hand, so he didn't believe in fate at all. If the dormant dragon heart venomous worm was subdued by the life-twisting venomous worm, then other venomous worms would have to kneel down too. Should I call out the life-twisting goo? Shunlian had always been cautious about this. He would never expose the life-twisting goo in front of anyone. Until now, only Wang Fugue knew that he had refined the life-twisting goo. However, Wang Fugue did not know about the life-twisting goo's ability. I'll look for it myself first. After a few days, I'll find an opportunity to release the life-twisting insect. After Shunlian made up his mind, he regained his spirit and searched the brocade boxes one by one. As expected, the first day was fruitless. The second day continued, and the third day, several days later, Shunlian became a frequent visitor to the mystical goo area. Duan Rongrong allowed Shunlian to come and go as he pleased. She didn't search him when he went in and out, which made Shunlian suspicious. On this day, Li Shuangyang introduced another person. This person was a man in his 40s. He had a thick beard, narrow eyes, and a hunchback. It was also his first time here. At first, he was very restrained and didn't know what to do. Later, he found out that Duan Rongrong really allowed him to search as he pleased. Shunlian paid attention and found something. Every once in a while, Duan Rongrong would take out a book to look at. That book looked very familiar, like a human face book. Once, Shunlian deliberately strolled near Duan Rongrong. When she was flipping through the human face book, he suddenly leaned over and took a few glances. After taking a look, he suddenly felt a chill in his heart. It really is a human face book. It really records everything about the customer. This thing is a big data analyzer. It can thoroughly understand your details. Shunlian couldn't help but be more cautious. After a few observations, Shunlian started to do tests. While searching through the brocade boxes, he deliberately activated the goo, or simply took it out. Gradually, he understood one thing. The human face book only recorded that he touched the brocade boxes, but didn't record the process. In other words, what he did was not recorded by the human face book. After understanding this, Shunlian finally relaxed. He called out the life twister goo and hid it in his sleeve. He continued to search for that trace of possibility. Unknowingly, another 7 to 8 days passed. Shunlian still didn't find anything. Duan Rongrong was not surprised. There was once a person who persisted in searching for 3 to 4 years. To obtain a mystical goo, one needed luck, patience, and perseverance. It couldn't be rushed. That hunchback man, however, gave up and left the mystical goo area. He went elsewhere to try his luck. Isn't that Brother Shen? On this day, Shun Lian was on his way out of the Gu garden when he suddenly heard a surprised call from behind. He turned around and saw Hua Meifei and the others. Miss Hua, Brother Yun Han, Brother Huai Hua. Shun Lian was stunned for a moment before he smiled and greeted them one by one. Brother Shun, what have you been busy with recently? I asked you out a few times but you didn't come. Hua Meifei pouted and said with a furious face. Shun Lian quickly apologized. I was delayed by some personal matters. Sorry, I will definitely ask you out next time. And Yun Han's gaze shifted back and forth. His face was slightly gloomy as he suddenly interrupted. Brother Shun is a busy man. Right, I heard you live in the west of the city. Isn't that the slum area? Why is Brother Shun living there? Everyone instantly quieted down. Hua Meifei angrily glared at Yun Han. The latter had an innocent expression as he shrugged and said, I don't have any other meaning, I was just curious. Shun Lian slightly narrowed his eyes, his gaze flickering on Yun Han's face. He still smiled gently. Many thanks for Brother Yun Han's concern. Shun left his hometown and came out alone to make a living. I don't dare to be extravagant, I have made a fool of myself in front of everyone. Making a living alone. Brother Shun, you are really amazing. And Yun Han, did you hear that? Brother Shun is the same age as you and has already come out to make a living, yet you are still shamelessly living off your old age. Hua Meifei immediately had a look of worship on her face. She immediately turned around and mocked Yun Han with an expression that said, You can't compare to Brother Shun. Yun Han flew into a rage out of humiliation. His face was red as he angrily flung his sleeves and turned around to leave. This Yun Han, ever since he became a Gu master, he has become more and more disagreeable, as if he has changed into a different person. After Yun Han left, a companion muttered softly. Everyone had the same feeling and nodded one after another, their faces showing disappointment. Clearly, they were already dissatisfied with Yun Han's domineering attitude. Brother Shun, in a few days, it will be a hot summer day. I will book a boat and go up the Wei River, sightseeing until we reach the waterfall. Do you want to come? Hua Meifei had an expression of undeniable expectation. Shun Lian pondered for a moment before nodding. Okay. Hua Meifei was overjoyed at this turn of events and happily said, Then it's settled. Remember to come. After the two agreed on a time and place, they parted ways. Chapter 51. Dry Mountain, Ancient Temple, Dungeon. Clatter. One end of a thick iron chain was nailed into the rock wall and the other end was tied to a person's ankle. The enclosed space was dark, damp, and unusually cold. Beside it was a wooden bucket that emitted the smell of feces and urine. Occasionally, the squeaking of rats could be heard. A rumbling sound was heard. The iron bucket door of the dungeon opened and a beam of sunlight shone in, illuminating the dungeon. The person with disheveled hair raised his head and squinted his eyes. It took him a while to adapt to the sunlight. The mute monk walked into the dungeon and came before Xiezhen. He put down a wooden tray. On the wooden tray there was a bowl of rice, some vegetables, and a bowl of cold water. Cough, 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 thank you. The skinny Xiezhen's voice was hoarse and his clothes were ragged. His lips were cracked and purple due to the cold. He had a severe cold and fever. His body was curled up and shivering nonstop. The mute monk looked indifferent. He looked at Xiezhen and walked out of the dungeon, slowly closing the iron bucket door. Darkness flooded in like a tide, drowning the entire dungeon. Wait a minute! Xiezhen stretched out his hand as if he wanted to catch the disappearing sunlight. He was really cold. After a while, he, who was swallowed by the darkness, let out a long sigh. In the dead silence, a squeaking sound was heard. Brother Shu, only you are willing to accompany me. Xiezhen laughed bitterly at himself and reached out to touch the rice. However, he touched a soft and fluffy little animal that was eating heartily in the bowl. Xiezhen slowly retracted his hand and sighed. Brother Shu, you can eat. Just leave some for me. Anyway, I won't live for long. He traveled to Dry Mountain Temple and planned to stay for 3 days before leaving. He did not expect that the treasure of Dry Mountain Temple would be stolen. He was the only outsider and was immediately caught by a group of evil monks. He was beaten several times and thrown into the dungeon. It had been almost a month since then. His life was worse than death. It was as if he was in hell. Alas, I didn't expect that I would not be eaten by monsters but die in the hands of a group of bald monks. Xiezhen was hit by an unexpected disaster. He had experienced grievances, anger, struggle, depression, unwillingness, and despair. Until now, his heart was as calm as stagnant water. When he was very sure that he was going to die, his heart gradually calmed down. He gave up struggling and accepted his fate. He was just waiting for the moment to arrive. I don't have any relatives in this world. I'm homeless. When I die, no one will bury me, erect a tombstone for me, hold a memorial for me, and grieve for my departure, Xiezhen muttered to himself. Endless loneliness and loneliness mixed together in this dark and cold place. He suddenly thought of a poem that Xun Lian once said, "There is no need to bury bones in a mulberry field, there is no place in life that is not green." Xiezhen smiled bitterly as an inexplicable sense of heroism rose in his heart. Brother Chun, you are indeed a free and easy person. I really want to drink another 300 cups with you. Then I can die without regrets. Just a moment later, with a loud bang, the iron barrel door suddenly opened. A stout monk with a repulsive face rushed in, scaring the rats into fleeing into the crevices in the rock wall. Thief! Zhu Yuan fiercely kicked the wooden basin away. Rice, vegetables, and cold water spilled all over the floor. Xiezhen was half conscious. He weakly opened his eyes. Then, a big hand suddenly grabbed his neck and lifted him up. The iron chains rattled. You still don't want to confess? Zhu Yuan's face was gloomy and ferocious. Xiezhen did not say a word. He knew that it was useless to say anything. Zhu Yuan, don't be rash. At this time, an old monk with white hair and a beard walked in from behind Zhu Yuan. He looked benevolent and had a profound understanding of Buddhism. Xiezhen suddenly felt a trace of vitality. He thought that this old monk seemed to be a reasonable person. Maybe he would help him. I am Kongming, the abbot of Dry Mountain Temple. Master Kongming waved his hand. Zhu Yuan immediately put down Xiezhen and retreated to the door. This was the first time Xiezhen saw Master Kongming. A faint desire to live appeared in his heart. Xiezhen violently coughed a few times and begged, "Abbot, please save me. I really did not steal anything from the temple. Please investigate." Master Kongming smiled and said meaningfully, "After the treasure of the temple was stolen, in order to prevent the thief from escaping, we had no choice but to seal the temple. After a thorough investigation, we have now confirmed that it was not done by the monks of our temple." Xiezhen was stunned. His face twitched and he smiled bitterly. "So, you are sure that it was done by me?" Master Kongming narrowed his eyes and sneered. "On the night when the treasure of the temple was lost, you said that you had been sleeping and never left your room. However, 2 monks saw you wandering around the temple that night. How do you explain this?" Xiezhen argued. "There is no such thing. I thought about it carefully. It should be that someone stole my clothes first, and then used my clothes to commit the crime. That is why there is this misunderstanding. It is about your clothes." Master Kongming's face darkened. His eyes revealed a fierce light. "We found it outside the wall." Master Kongming magically took out a coat from under his kasaya and threw it on the ground. The coat was bulging like there was something inside. Xiezhen was suspicious. He opened the coat and saw a Buddhist shrine. When he opened it, there was nothing inside. "This is my clothes. But this shrine, I have never seen it before." Xiezhen's face turned ugly. His mouth was dry and he was unable to explain himself. Still quibbling. Master Kongming was furious. His expression turned sinister. He slapped Xiejian's face and shouted, "It is obvious that after you stole the Buddha heart goo, you did not have time to climb out of the wall and escape. So you threw it outside the wall and then went back to your room to pretend to sleep. Is that right? Speak, where did the Buddha heart goo go? Who is your accomplice?" Xiejian smiled bitterly and shook his head. Master Kongming's eyes were about to burst. "The facts are here. The evidence is irrefutable. You snuck into the temple to steal, and your accomplice was waiting outside. Your plan succeeded, but you were caught. And your accomplice also betrayed you. He purposely left your clothes and shrine. His intention is clear. Isn't it to kill you? Even now, you are still defending him?" Xiejian made a final plea. "Abbot, I've been reading scriptures in the ancient temple for 3 days, and I've often read the phrase, 'Monks should be merciful.' I implore Abbot to be merciful and spare a pitiful person like me." I really didn't steal." Master Kongming was furious. He spat on Xiejian's face. "Pay! Talking to me about being merciful. Do you know what is merciful? Let me tell you, the rich are not willful. The powerful do not commit crimes. The strong do not kill. This is merciful. Merciful is not something everyone has. Merciful is the privilege of the strong. When Buddha was born, he pointed to the sky with one hand and the earth with the other. He said, 'In the heavens and on the earth, only I am supreme.' When Buddha was born, he could walk. But when he walked, he could not bear to step on the ants on the ground. This is the truth of being merciful. When you are strong enough to look down on all living things as ants, you will be merciful. Buddha was first to be supreme, then to be merciful. And you stole my opportunity to be merciful. How can I be merciful to you?" This shocking speech made Xiejian dumbstruck. He was tongue-tied. This was the so-called Buddha? "Zhiyuan, I will leave him to you. Punish him." Master Kongming was flustered and exasperated. Zhiyuan snickered as he entered. He held a pair of plier-like metal tools. He pressed down on Xiejian's hands and pulled out his fingernails one by one. Chapter 52. Xin Lian's work and rest were very regular these days. He would wake up before dawn to do high-intensity training, and in the afternoon he would search for strange goo in the goo garden. Every day was like this. In the strange goo area, Xin Lian faced rows of shelves and countless brocade boxes. He had already lost count of how many he had checked, but he still patiently searched for them one by one. During this period, people constantly came here to try their luck, coming and going. Once, Xin Lian met Chao Qing, who had the disdain goo. With Li Shuangyang's warning, Xin Lian knew this person's eyes were strange and deliberately avoided him. However, another person was unlucky. He and Chao Qing were searching for goo in front of the same shelf. Not knowing if it was because he was in a bad mood, he fiercely glared at Chao Qing. Chao Qing's gaze focused, and after looking at him for a few seconds, he smiled disdainfully. "Ah!" That person held his head and screamed, as if he had seen a ghost. He was extremely frightened, and his face instantly became extremely pale. His legs trembled crazily, and he seemed to be unable to control his body. Gradually, his pupils dilated, and he was on the verge of collapse. White foam came out of his mouth, and he fainted on the ground. "Sigh, another idiot." Chao Qing snorted. His expression was arrogant, and his gaze was disdainful. He snorted and left in disdain. Xin Lian witnessed this scene with his own eyes, and was secretly shocked by the terror of the goo of disdain. That person only exchanged glances with Chao Qing for a few seconds, and he was already half dead. Such divine power, he could not help but be afraid. Killing gaze, how could one defend against it? In Naruto, the dark blue beast Kai Huang of the 8 inner hidden gates trained a super strong body technique to avoid the blood spiral eyes. However, when the disdain goo's power is fully activated, regardless of whether you look at it or not, you will be attacked by its killing gaze. It was simply impossible to defend against. Fate Shi Gu, where is your good partner? After this incident, Shen Lian became more and more anxious. The mystical power of the strange Gu made him very envious. However, he also knew that he could not be anxious, so he suppressed the desire in his heart and looked at those brocade boxes one by one with the Fate Shi Gu. Unknowingly, several days passed. In front of the 19th row of shelves, Shen Lian put down a brocade box inside. Then, he picked up the brocade box next to him and opened it. He couldn't help but be slightly stunned. There was a Gu in the brocade box. Its shape was very strange. At first glance, it looked like a scorpion, but upon closer inspection, its long tail was actually a snake. Half scorpion, half snake, Shen Lian clicked his tongue. He had been searching for Gu for days, and had seen all kinds of Gu. He could be considered to be experienced and knowledgeable. Even so, he was still shocked by this strangely shaped Gu in front of him. Life-twisting Gu suddenly moved closer, slightly excited. Shen Lian's heart tightened. Could it be? His eyes shone brightly, revealing a look of great anticipation. Seeing the life-twisting Gu walk over, the half-scorpion half-snake Gu suddenly woke up. After being stunned for a moment, it jumped out and ran towards the life-twisting Gu, circling around it and rubbing against it intimately. This scene was extremely similar to dogs seeing their owner who had just returned home. And this was also the first time Shen Lian saw a Gu. After seeing the life-twisting Gu, it didn't want to run away or tremble in fear. Instead, it rushed towards the life-twisting Gu so intimately, as if it had reunited after a long time. Haha, found it! Shen Lian was stunned for a moment before he became overjoyed. Actually, searching for Gu aimlessly was like searching for a needle in a haystack. Not only was it time-consuming, it was mentally exhausting and very tiring. Finally, hard work paid off. Huff, I need to calm down. Shen Lian took a deep breath, his thoughts churning intensely. The Gu Garden has a human Facebook that monitors the customer's every move. My purchase of this strange Gu will definitely be recorded. What exactly is this strange Gu? The Gu Garden doesn't know. But this might be because they didn't identify it, but that doesn't mean other people can't recognize it. If one day someone recognizes this strange Gu, and through this Gu, discovers the existence of the life-twisting Gu, this hidden danger cannot be ignored. With a quick thought, Shen Lian realized that he couldn't let the Gu Garden leave any records. What should he do? Spend money to bribe Duan Rongrong to not leave any traces, or tamper with the records? Every strange Gu here is recorded. I'm afraid Duan Rongrong won't be able to do anything. Shen Lian shook his head, but quickly rejected this idea. Suddenly, Shen Lian shuddered and thought of a good idea. Duan Rongrong said it herself, among these strange Gu, there might be harmful Gu. My heart-eating Gu has great potential. Shen Lian looked around, Duan Rongrong was not around, and no one was watching. He quietly kept the half-scorpion half-snake Gu and released the heart-eating Gu into the brocade box. The heart-eating Gu transformed into a half-scorpion half-snake Gu. Then, Shen Lian took the brocade box and went to find Duan Rongrong. Are you sure you want this strange Gu? Duan Rongrong looked at the half-scorpion half-snake Gu and showed some surprise. Shen Lian nodded seriously. This strange Gu seems to be fated with me. Yes, I have an impression of this strange Gu. About 12 to 13 years ago, someone found this Gu by chance. Its shape was very strange, and everyone thought it was a powerful Gu. But no one could identify this Gu, and no one could refine it. As time passed, it had no choice but to be kept in the strange Gu area. Duan Rongrong recalled. Shen Lian's brows raised and said hesitantly, could it be a harmful Gu? To tell you the truth, my luck has always been bad, and I always meet with unlucky things. Duan Rongrong's gaze flashed, and after pondering for a while, she said, how about this, I'll test it again for you. Saying so, she opened her palm. A bright ray of light suddenly gushed out from her palm. In the light, a mirror appeared. It was oval in shape, and its frame seemed to be surrounded by beautiful jade. It was very beautiful. Duan Rongrong's expression turned serious and said solemnly, "This is my gu, it is called Clear Mirror Gu. It can reflect the true appearance of things, and even see through the good and evil of people." Xin Lian's eyes brightened, and placed the half-scorpion half-snake gu in front of the mirror. In the mirror, the half-scorpion half-snake gu did not have any abnormalities. Xin Lian let out a long breath and said, "Yes, it seems there is no problem." Duan Rongrong suddenly snorted angrily. She shook the mirror, and immediately, a dazzling white light shot out, landing on the half-scorpion half-snake gu. Under the white light, the half-scorpion half-snake gu emitted wisps of black smoke, and after a while, its appearance changed greatly, turning into a lizard-like form. "It really is a heart-eating gu!" Duan Rongrong shouted loudly. Her expression was solemn, and her eyes narrowed. Xin Lian took a step back in fright, and a shocked expression appeared on his face. Duan Rongrong let out a breath of turbid air, and looked at Xin Lian and thought for a while. Back then, my clear mirror gu had not evolved to its current level, and I almost let the heart-eating gu deceive me. It seems your luck is really... For a moment, she did not know what to say. If you were lucky, you might have avoided a calamity. If you were lucky, you chose the heart-eating gu. Xin Lian repeatedly said that he was extremely lucky. The heart-eating gu is a harmful gu, I will keep it and get rid of it. Duan Rongrong was about to keep the box. Xin Lian suddenly stretched out his hand and stopped her. Wait, what if I want to buy this heart-eating gu? Duan Rongrong's gaze flashed, and looked deeply at Xin Lian. It was too easy to guess what the person who bought the heart-eating gu wanted to do, harm people. You can buy it, but according to the rules, 50,000 taels. But you have to think carefully. If you buy a heart-eating gu elsewhere, you don't need to spend 50,000 taels. Duan Rongrong did not seem to want to sell this heart-eating gu. Xin Lian hesitated for a while, but still took out the money. Forget it, I don't want to go through the trouble, I will buy this one, I need it urgently. Duan Rongrong sighed, received the money, and handed over the gu. Xin Lian took his leave. Duan Rongrong watched him leave, and slowly retracted her gaze. She took out the human Facebook, and found a message in it. After correcting it, she kept the human Facebook. Chapter 53. Xin Lian rushed home without stopping, his heart almost flying out of his chest. "Young master, you are back." Bai Ling heard the sound of the door opening and poked his head out of the kitchen, smiling amiably. Xin Lian was also full of smiles, not saying anything and directly entering the room. Young master seems to have a joyous occasion today. Bai Ling thought, taking another look before returning to the kitchen. A moment later, the half-scorpion half-snake gu quietly laid on the table. "Huff, let's begin." Xin Lian let out a breath of turbid air, once again taking out the silver needle and pressing it against his fingertip. His heart was burning with passion. Once he thought of how this half-scorpion half-snake gu could activate the life-twisting gu's power. His heart could not help but give birth to boundless ambition. Puff! Unable to suppress his excitement, the silver needle pierced a little deeper, and a large bright red blood instantly gushed out. Xin Lian did not mind, turning his finger, the blood dripped down like scattered blood jadeite. Slurp, in front of the fresh blood, the half-scorpion half-snake gu drank it like it was wine, extremely crazy, revealing a thirst Xin Lian had never seen before. And at the next moment, a violent thought directly charged into Xin Lian's mind. Under normal circumstances, this was the feeling of a successful refinement. Naturally it was a great thing. But this time, the half-scorpion half-snake gu's thought was very domineering, strange, and cold. It was completely different from the thought of Grandmaster Gu, Milk Cow Gu, and Iron Skin Gu when they were first refined. It directly penetrated into the depths of Xin Lian's mind, as if it was touching his soul. Xin Lian's soul suddenly felt cold, as if it had fallen into an ice cellar, Even his bone marrow became cold, and he could not help but shiver violently, all the hair on his body standing up. Something is not right. Shen Lian's expression was grave, his brows furrowed into a knot as he looked at the half-scorpion half-snake Gu. The passion in his heart instantly decreased by half, turning into a deep seriousness. At this time, the life-twisting Gu appeared and gently stroked the restless half-scorpion half-snake Gu. A moment later, that overbearing and strange feeling of coldness gradually disappeared. Instead, an ancient and vast image appeared in Shen Lian's mind. In the image, there was a ferocious beast as large as the sky. It was half scorpion and half snake, and its entire body was burning with black flames. It roared through the universe, trampled the heavens, and whipped the earth. It wantonly released the slaughter that had been suppressed for a long time, the violence that destroyed everything, the brutality of blood and savagery. It spread endless hatred, burning anger, soul-tearing screams, fear of the twilight of the gods, and hysterical despair. The world was walking towards its end, and the destruction was still ongoing. In the end, it would turn into a vortex that would devour the ages. The scene came to an abrupt end. The shocking scene made Shen Lian's head swell. He shook his head, his face full of shock and doubt. When he focused his gaze again, his pupils immediately shrank into a thin line. The half-scorpion half-snake Gu was gone. In his moment of absent-mindedness, the half-scorpion half-snake Gu had strangely disappeared without a trace, as if it had never appeared. Where did it go? Shen Lian was inexplicably shocked. He quickly looked around, but there was no trace of it. Suddenly, the interface in front of him flashed, and the information was updated. Nameless strange Gu, soul fusion type, white class, special effect, chaotic vortex, soul fusion type? Shen Lian suddenly opened his eyes wide, his heart tightened, and a stunned expression appeared on his face. The missing half-scorpion half-snake Gu had actually fused with his soul in the blink of an eye without him noticing. There were all kinds of Gu. There were body fusion types, and also soul fusion type. The latter was obviously more mysterious and difficult to analyze. When a person dies, their soul disappears. Logically speaking, the soul and the body are inseparable, like the relationship between ink and water. They are mixed together and cannot be separated. It is extremely difficult to separate the two. This strange Gu has fused with my soul. What ability will it give me? How can it complement the life-twisting Gu? Also, what is this special effect, chaotic vortex? The sudden situation made Shen Lian somewhat unprepared. He had been too excited before, and underestimated the strangeness of the half-scorpion half-snake Gu. That's right, if it was qualified to partner with the life-twisting Gu, how could it be simple? After thinking about it, Shen Lian gradually calmed down. Then, his brain started working again. The images that appeared in my mind should be the memories of this half-scorpion half-snake Gu when it fused with me, allowing me to see its past. If those images are real, then this half-scorpion half-snake Gu seems to have once destroyed the universe. When he thought of this, Shen Lian himself was a bit in disbelief. Is this possible? However, there was one thing he was sure of: this half-scorpion half-snake Gu was absolutely not simple, and could even be very, very powerful. The body fusion type Gu can bring visible changes to the body. Then what about the soul fusion type Gu? The strong root Gu could make a certain part of Shen Lian's body majestic and mighty. Moving changes could be seen, but what about the half-scorpion half-snake Gu? Shen Lian could not figure it out no matter how he thought about it. Young master, dinner is ready. At this time, Bai Ling knocked on the door and called softly. It's time to eat. Shen Lian was slightly disappointed. He sighed and simply threw away the doubts in his heart, filling his stomach first before thinking about anything else. Young master, Bai Ling made 8 treasure duck, flying dragon soup, and also ordered roasted suckling pig, spiced donkey meat, hibiscus crab chops, and several other famous dishes from the restaurant. Please try them. Bai Ling said with a smile in front of the dining table. Not bad, not bad. Shen Lian looked at the table. There were more than a dozen dishes on the table, and all of them were delicacies that looked, smelled, and tasted good. He could not help but have an appetite, sitting down and eating heartily. He cultivated his body every day and consumed a lot of energy, so his appetite was naturally large. He even specially ate good food, and this meal was equivalent to an ordinary family's monthly expenses. Bai Ling chewed and swallowed slowly. At this time, Shen Lian suddenly heard a noise coming from outside. It sounded like two women were quarreling and cursing on the street, and they were quarreling very fiercely. Bai Ling listened for a while and said with a bitter smile, "It's the mother-in-law next door and her daughter-in-law quarreling. They seem to want to separate from the family." It was very common for sons and daughters-in-law to want to be independent, separate from their parents, and live their own lives. When they quarreled, it was nothing more than the problem of the family property distribution. Shen Lian was not in the mood to care about such trivial matters. He quickly finished his meal, rinsed his mouth, and paced back and forth in the courtyard. His mind was full of thoughts about the half-scorpion and half-snake Gu. Who would have thought that the quarreling outside would not end, and it made Shen Lian a little irritated. Shen Lian walked out of the door, turned his head, and was immediately stunned. In front of the door next door, two women were 1 meter apart, pointing their fingers at each other and cursing endlessly. There was also a man squatting in the corner of the door. His face was very ugly, and his eyebrows were deeply furrowed. He did not say a word. This scene naturally did not make Shen Lian stunned. What made his body tense was the black vortex hovering above the three people's heads. A black vortex the size of a millstone, about 3 meters above the ground, enveloped the two women and the man. The scene was indescribably strange. Could it be a monster? Shen Lian's heart trembled, and he subconsciously pressed down on the chasing wind sword. At this time, Bai Ling came out. She looked at the two fierce-looking women and shook her head speechlessly. Bai Ling can't see it? Shen Lian was surprised and hurriedly asked Bai Ling to look at the top of their heads. Sure enough, Bai Ling looked up for a while with a blank expression. She did not know what Shen Lian was asking her to look at. There were many neighbors surrounding them, and they did not mind watching a show. However, no one noticed the existence of the black vortex. Could this be the so-called chaotic vortex of disaster? Shen Lian thought to himself. He carefully observed for a while and saw that the black vortex was getting thicker and thicker, and it was constantly sinking. It was as if something was brewing, and it was about to be born. Shen Lian's eyelids twitched. His intuition told him that he should do something at this time. Life playing Gu, bewitching people's hearts. A bolt of lightning flashed across Shen Lian's heart. He looked pensive and suddenly had an epiphany. Why are you quarreling? Beat her up. Someone in the crowd suddenly shouted. It was Shen Lian. His words seemed to have some kind of magic, like adding oil to the fire. The mother-in-law and daughter-in-law who were quarreling couldn't help but rush to each other and finally started to fight. They tore each other's hair, punched and kicked each other, and started to fight. The man at the door looked at his mother and daughter-in-law fighting with a conflicted expression. He did not know what to do. After a while, he walked over and tried to pull them apart. At the same time, the black vortex suddenly fell and enveloped the three people. The black vortex spun rapidly, like a black hole that was brewing a tragedy, and it swallowed the three people. In the end, the man who was swaying left and right could do nothing. He could only watch his mother and daughter-in-law fight. The black vortex fiercely spun, and the three people fell into the center of the black vortex. The mother-in-law was very valiant. She was tall and strong. She pushed her daughter-in-law to the ground. When her daughter-in-law fell to the ground, the mother-in-law went up and kicked her a few times. The daughter-in-law could not dodge in time. Suddenly, she felt a stone and threw it out. With a muffled bang, the mother-in-law fell to the ground with her head broken and bleeding. The man was stunned, and so was the daughter-in-law. There was a burst of exclamations around them. Only then did the crowd rush to save the mother-in-law and carry her to the clinic. The mother-in-law left, but the black vortex was still there. It began to condense towards the center. Finally, it turned into a pure black object the size of a rice grain. After a flash, it flew towards Xun Lian and directly entered between his eyebrows. Boom! Xun Lian's mind seemed to rumble like thunder, and he was stunned for a moment. Then, the whole world returned to silence. In the silence, a strange sound suddenly sounded. Bewitching the descent of human calamity. Obtained 100 bewitchment points. Light flickered on the interface, and 2 pieces of information changed. Nameless Strange Goo, Bronze Level 1, Special Effect, Chaotic Vortex, Inner Demon Contamination Bewitchment Points, 120". So it's like this. Xun Lian stood in a daze and thought for a moment. Suddenly, he understood. After pondering for a while, he climbed to a high place and looked around. He saw that there were black vortexes hovering between heaven and earth. Some of the black vortexes were gradually forming, while others were slowly dissipating. This half-scorpion and half-snake goo should be feeding on disasters and tragedies. Any place where a conflict breaks out will form a chaotic vortex. The person who has this goo can see these chaotic vortexes. My words just now caused the conflict to escalate, causing the 3 people who were shrouded in the whirlpool of calamity to meet with a tragedy. Their life trajectories have changed, and this is precisely how the life-changing goo bewitches people. Chapter 54. The stars were endless, and the night was alluring. Standing at a high place, Xun Lian looked at the black vortexes all over Ronghua City. They were like dark clouds gathering and dispersing in the sky. Xun Lian's heart was surging, and the blood in his veins was boiling. Bai Ling, bring me some wine. The wind and clouds of heaven and earth converge. A man's heroic spirit is boundless. Yes, young master. Bai Ling didn't know why, but Xun Lian was in a good mood, so she was happy too. She immediately fetched a jar of perfect tonic wine. Xun Lian hugged the jar and opened the lid. He raised his head and drank a mouthful of wine, letting the hot wine flow down his throat. It felt good. Bai Ling, I'm going out to relax. You don't have to wait for me. If you're tired, you can rest. Xun Lian waved his hand and looked around like a king. Oh, okay. Bai Ling's bright eyes flickered. She felt that Xun Lian was a little strange today. It seemed that he was too happy. Xun Lian strode in a certain direction. He was moving very fast, like a whirlwind, bringing up smoke and dust along the way. He came to a fork in the street and stopped. Along the way, not a single drop of wine was spilled. Xun Lian looked up and saw 2 groups of people on the street. Each group had more than 100 people. They were clearly separated. Everyone was holding swords and sabers. The atmosphere was very tense, and it seemed that a war would break out at any moment. I just looked around the city. There is an extremely huge black vortex brewing here. Turns out that 2 gangs are going to fight tonight. Xun Lian's eyes flickered back and forth. He understood the situation on the field. Big Knife Gang and Axe Gang, 2 big gangs, were fighting each other for territory. There was constant friction, and the conflict continued to intensify. Gradually, they were like fire and water. They were going to fight tonight, and they were going to settle their grudges. However, they also knew that once the fight started, there would be casualties. They didn't fight as soon as they saw each other. The 2 gang leaders restrained themselves and walked to the middle to negotiate. Sigh, since we're already here, it'll be boring if we don't fight. Xun Lian couldn't stand it anymore. He picked up a stone and threw it out. Someone from the Big Knife Gang screamed as his head bled. He immediately cursed, "Which bastard threw stones at me?" From where he was standing, the stone was thrown from the Axe Gang. "Come out if you have the guts." The members of the Axe Gang looked at each other. "Is that you?" No. They were members of a gang, so they could lose anything but a person. A moment later, one of them stood up and shouted, "Yes, I threw it. I threw it at you. What can a bastard like you do to me?" The big saber gang's side suddenly exploded. The two sect masters were in the middle of a war of words when the situation suddenly changed. They were a bit stupefied and had not yet figured out what was going on. The people of the Big Blade Gang picked up stones and threw them like crazy. Clatter, the members of the Axe Gang immediately howled in grief, but they soon returned the favor. They threw stones and some even shot arrows. The two sect masters were also furious. If you don't have sincerity, what's the point of talking? We'll kill you first. The black vortex shrouded and fiercely rolled down. Everyone was trapped in it. The bloody fight immediately began. The two sides rushed to each other and a chaotic battle broke out in the street. They were all using real swords and spears. White swords went in and red swords came out. Broken arms and limbs flew everywhere, and blood spilled on the ground. After an hour, the Big Saber Gang retreated in defeat. The Axe Gang actually didn't have much of an advantage. Both sides had lost 30 to 40 people. Xinlian seemed to be waiting for something. The moment the bloody fight ended, the black vortex was as dark as ink. It gathered toward the center and turned into a peanut-sized pure black object. It flashed and flew toward Xinlian, directly entering between his eyebrows. Xinlian's mind was shocked, but nothing else happened. At the same time, a wonderful sound suddenly rang out, bewitching the descent of human calamity. You've gained 1,000 bewitchment points. Xinlian was overjoyed. The corners of his mouth slanted upwards and he had the urge to laugh out loud, but he forcefully held it back. After this incident, he confirmed one thing: bewitching people's hearts. Words were useful, actions were also useful. Even if they didn't say a word, they could cause the world to collapse and the sea of blood to flow backward. Life-twisting goo and are simply a perfect match. Xinlian thought for a while. He should give this half-scorpion half-snake goo a name. What should he call it? You are the representative of hatred, you are the friend of calamity and chaos, you are the death knell of peace. You trample on all living things, spread despair, and weave the end of the world. You are the endless calamity. Only the name of calamity is worthy of you. Light flickered on the interface, and the information was updated. Calamity Goo, Bronze Level 2, Special Effect, Chaotic Vortex, Heart Demon Contamination. It evolved by another level. Xinlian thought for a while and felt that this was not evolution, but recovery. Calamity Goo was originally a very high-rank goo, but for some reason it is now in a weakened state. As long as I continue to feed it the power of calamity, it will gradually recover to its peak state. Xinlian named the pure black substance condensed from the black vortex Power of Calamity. When he returned home, it was already close to midnight. Xinlian did not feel sleepy at all. With 1,120 points of bewitchment, I can finally evolve Grandmaster Goo. Xinlian was extremely excited and could not wait. On the interface, Grandmaster Goo, Bronze Level 8, Special Effect, Martial Moving Mountains and Rivers, Extreme Strengthening. Consume 50 points of bewitchment to evolve Grandmaster Goo by 1 level. Do you wish to evolve? Consume 200 points of bewitchment to evolve Grandmaster Goo by 2 levels. Do you wish to evolve? Consume 500 points of bewitchment to evolve Grandmaster Goo to silver level. Do you wish to evolve? It only requires 50 points of bewitchment to evolve Grandmaster Goo by 1 level. Evolving it by 2 levels only requires 200 points of bewitchment. Xinlian was slightly surprised. Logically speaking, the further it evolves, the more bewitchment points it requires. Maybe it has something to do with my gains these days. I have been going in and out of the Goo Garden, my horizons have been broadened and I have seen a lot of things. My comprehension has been like a tide, allowing Grandmaster Goo to absorb a lot of nutrients. After calming down and thinking about it, Xinlian came to a realization. Compared to when he was in Snow Ridge City, his knowledge back then was extremely shallow and could not be compared to the current him. No matter what, this was a great thing. Then what are we waiting for? Evolve Grandmaster Goo charge. With a swoosh, the interface flashed and the bewitchment points decreased by 500 points. Grandmaster Goo, which had not seen rain for a long time, began to stir. Its body trembled intensely as it let out multicolored light that was as beautiful as a painting. The multicolored light did not dissipate, but instead coiled around Grandmaster Goo's body, forming a thick layer of camouflage light film. It was like a rainbow cocoon, beautiful and magnificent. 3 days later, with a burst of cracking sounds, Grandmaster Goo broke out of its cocoon. The Grandmaster Goo, which resembled a woodman, had a lustrous body, and its skin was like cold metal. It had a cold luster, and the most conspicuous part was the silver stripe on its chest. It was awe-inspiring and majestic. Grandmaster Goo, Silver Level 1, Special Effect, Martial Moving Mountains and Rivers, Extreme Strengthening, Grandmaster of a Generation. Chapter 55. Shun Lian was naturally overjoyed. Grandmaster Goo has advanced to Silver Rank 1, it is only a matter of time before I enter the Silver Rank. In this dangerous world, I finally have the ability to protect myself. After spending these days in the Goo Garden, Shun Lian gradually understood the strength levels of the Goo Master world. White rank Goo Masters were trash in battle, Bronze rank Goo Masters could barely protect themselves, Silver rank Goo Masters could hold their own, Gold rank Goo Masters could move unhindered. A moment later, the familiar feeling of hunger attacked him. Silver rank Grandmaster Goo was like an old monk meditating, breathing and refining primeval energy, condensing primeval essence with almost no stagnation, and even without the help of milk cow Goo, the efficiency was shockingly high. But this was not the end. The condensed green primeval essence was also extremely pure. This caused the half-hearted milk cow Goo to be completely useless. It could not even come back to reconcile with the Grandmaster Goo. Humph, yesterday you looked down on me and abandoned me, but today I will soar to the heavens, you can't even compare to me. A Silver Grandmaster Goo was simply domineering, it was unparalleled in the world, it was simply too awesome. Shun Lian quickly drank the medicinal wine to replenish his primeval energy. In just half an hour, the green primeval essence in the Grandmaster Goo's aperture had risen to the 9th layer of space, before slowly stopping. Next, I need to focus on strengthening my body and fuse the Dragon Heart Goo and the Strong Root Goo. I need to increase my talent as soon as possible and advance to the silver level. After Shun Lian made up his mind, his face was filled with determination and excitement. For this, he made an even more intense training plan overnight. Outside Ronghua City, about 30 li away, there was a waterfall. Abundant water poured down from Wei River's cliffs, roaring like thunder, forming a hanging valley waterfall with a width of about 20 meters and a height of about 80 meters. The river water poured down, forming a huge impact force. Shun Lian's upper body was bare, standing under the rumbling waterfall, letting the fierce river water crash on his body. With such a terrifying impact force, no one would be able to hold on for long. Shun Lian was like an unchanging statue, proudly standing under the waterfall without moving. Every time his body reached its limit, he would grit his teeth and persevere. Every time the Dragon Heart Goo responded at the crucial moment, the heart beat strongly, and a faint dragon roar could be heard. At the same time, a cooling sensation gushed out from his kidneys and spread throughout his body. His kidney energy was like a rainbow. All of a sudden, Shun Lian's qi and blood surged. He was full of vigor and vitality, and he persevered. Under such intense tempering, it did not disappoint his expectations. The fusion of Dragon Heart Goo and Strong Root Goo increased by leaps and bounds. A few days later, along with a burst of light flowing on the interface, Shun Lian's eyes flashed, revealing great joy. Dragon Heart Voodoo, Bronze-ranked Level 1, Special Effect. Dragon Blood Mysterious Yellow, Assimilation Progress 10%. Consume 100 bewitchment points to evolve the Dragon Heart Voodoo by 1 level. Do you wish to evolve it? Strong root goo, bronze level 1, special effect. Rainbow kidney energy, fusion progress. 10%. Consume 10 bewitchment points to evolve the strong root goo by 1 level. Do you want to evolve? Of course. Evolve dragon heart goo. Evolve strong root goo. Shen Lian's eyes shone, and as his thoughts flashed, the area below his chest and stomach once again felt an electric shock-like numbness, stronger than before, causing him to shiver uncontrollably. After an unknown amount of time, the numbness receded like the tide. The information on the interface was updated again. Dragon Heart Goo and Strong Root Goo had both evolved to Bronze Level 2, and at the next stage, the assimilation progress needed to reach 20% before they could continue to evolve. A moment later, as expected, an even stronger feeling of hunger assaulted him. Grandmaster Goo, Iron Jade Goo, and Milk Cow Goo were frantically refining primeval essence in their apertures. Bronze-colored primeval essence surged, gradually submerging the entire aperture. My talent has increased again. Shun Lian laughed heartily, going crazy with joy. He was already prepared, and crazily drank jar after jar of medicinal wine. The second day, Shun Lian's 2 apertures were filled with bronze primeval essence, and all of the space was filled with bronze primeval essence. And this signified that he had finally advanced to bronze level 10 Goo Master. Next, I have 2 goals. 1 is to continue to raise my talent, and 2 is to refine the bronze primeval essence into the higher level silver primeval essence. Once I do this, I can advance to a silver Goo Master. Furthermore, the Milk Cow Goo is of great help to refine the bronze primeval essence, but it won't work when it reaches silver primeval essence. I have to quickly find a goo to fuse with and evolve it, or find a goo to replace it. Shun Lian's pupils were deep and penetrating, his heart was bright without a trace of confusion, and his future path was very clear. Young master, Miss Hua Meifei has sent someone to pick you up, Bai Ling said softly outside the door. Pick me up? Shin Lian frowned, only now remembering that he had promised Hua Meifei to go sightseeing. Today is the hot summer day, time really flies. All right, I'll go out and play for a few days, and take the chance to earn some bewitching points. Shin Lian's lips curled up, and he changed into a fresh set of clothes. Carrying the chasing wind sword, he went out with Bai Ling. A horse carriage stopped at the entrance. The coachman smiled and said, "You must be young Master Shin. Miss said that if I can't pick you up, I can forget about going back alive." "Thank you for your trouble." Shin Lian chuckled, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. This could be considered as being chased by someone. The two got on the horse carriage. Thump, thump, thump. The horse carriage slowly drove away, constantly accelerating. After about 15 minutes, it stopped at a street corner. Shen Lian got off the carriage and raised his head to see Flying Flower Building. "Big Brother Shen." At this time, a surprised voice called out from not far away. It was Hua Meifei, wearing a simple and pure white dress. She waved her hands and cheered. "Big Brother Shen, over here, over here." Shen Lian smiled and walked over slowly. His gaze swept across the area. He saw that An Yunhan, Jiang Huaihua, and the others were also there. However, An Yunhan stood at the outermost circle, and the others kept a distance from him, as if they were marginalized. When An Yunhan saw Shen Lian, his eyes suddenly showed a strong sense of resentment. The small stone at his feet trembled slightly, as if it was about to fly. When Shen Lian walked over, a black vortex suddenly formed, enveloping him, An Yunhan, and the others. "Interesting," Shen Lian grinned, opened his paper fan, and gently fanned himself. He walked forward gracefully, smiling and greeting everyone. "Brother Yunhan, how have you been?" Shen Lian narrowed his eyes slightly, smiling. His gentle gaze flashed on An Yunhan's face. "Brother Shen Lian, same to you," An Yunhan replied coldly. His sarcastic tone made people look askance. Seeing this scene, everyone had a tacit understanding. Hua Meifei coughed softly, looked around at everyone, and said with a smile, "It's getting late. Let's set off. First, we'll go to Autumn Moon Lake to take a boat. After passing through the man-made river, we'll turn into the Wei River and go up the river. It'll take 3 days, and I hope everyone can get along well and have a good time." When she said the last sentence, Hua Meifei looked at An Yunhan meaningfully, as if she was referring to something. Chapter 56. Everyone accompanied each other to Autumn Moon Lake, where a painting boat was already waiting for them. This painting boat was extremely large, about 100 meters in length and 60 meters in width. It was divided into 3 levels, top, middle, and bottom, and was made from precious redwood. The top level was above the deck, with an extremely luxurious turret for people to play in. The middle level was inside the cabin, with luxurious rooms for people to stay in. The bottom level was the 60 boatmen. They were the wheels of this ancient world. When everyone boarded the boat, Jiang Huaihua walked in front with ease, introducing all aspects of this painting boat without stopping. This guy seemed to come here often, as if he was very familiar with the place. Shun Lian found it funny, thinking the geisha on the painting boat were all top quality. On the surface they only sold their skills and not their bodies, but as long as you spend a lot of money, there would be plenty of them willing to sleep with you. No wonder Jiang Huaihua wanted to buy the strong root gu, but I wonder if he succeeded in refining it. When they arrived at the deck, they saw 20 orioles and swallows, holding wine cups and standing on 2 sides, welcoming them and cheering, "Come on board and drink a cup of wine, great luck and great profit." Everyone was overjoyed, taking the wine cups and drinking it in one gulp. After entering the turret, there were tables of fruits and refreshments already prepared. The fragrance of incense filled the room, making people feel much more comfortable after smelling it. After everyone took their seats, a loud bugle horn sounded, and the painting boat slowly moved. Shun Lian had just sat down when he heard the melodious sound of a zither, passing through a quiet curtain. The soothing tone, rising and falling at the same time, the gentle and beautiful zither sound was deep, mellow and not lacking in passion, making people feel refreshed and amazed. The young female zither player behind the curtain had a graceful figure, showing her strength of character. As if she had not yet reached adulthood, her slender fingers could be faintly seen, and her skin was smooth like cream, fresh and refined. A gust of wind blew, and the string of pearls on the curtain collided with each other, making rustling sounds and inadvertently lifting a corner. Everyone's gaze focused, finally seeing the young girl's face. As expected, she was not yet of marriageable age, but her appearance was already extremely beautiful, bright eyes and white teeth, a pair of watery eyes that seemed to be able to speak. To have such skills at such a young age, it really made people want to slap the table and cry out in admiration. When Shun Lian saw the girl playing the zither, he was slightly stunned. He felt like he had seen her before. After thinking about it carefully, he said, "Oh! No wonder, this young lady is 70 to 80% similar to Lu Rui. It's like a young lady's version of Lu Rui, as if they were cast from the same mold." Shun Lian was surprised. He wondered if this young lady was related to Lu Rui by blood. Jiang Huaihua, who was sitting next to him, gave a vulgar smile and said, "Brother Shun has good eyesight indeed. Her name is Su Shaoling. She was born with a jade-like physique. What's even more commendable is that she looks extremely similar to Lu Rui. She's a seedling that the pleasure boat specially found and bought several years ago to cultivate. Now, whether it is her talent or her various skills, she has surpassed Lu Rui when she was her age. In the future, she will definitely be the most popular courtesan. Moreover, today is her first time receiving guests. Because of Hua Meifei, we are really blessed to see and hear her." As Jiang Huaihua spoke, his saliva flowed out. He covered his nose with a handkerchief, as if he was having a nosebleed. "Is that so?" Shun Lian was speechless. As they spoke, a beautiful figure suddenly flashed into the hall. She was graceful and charming. She danced to the music, her skirt fluttering in the wind. Shun Lian took a look. Who else could it be other than Hua Meifei? She was wearing a plain white dress that was constantly changing. When she lifted her toes, it was a floor-length dress. When she spun on the spot, it was a colorful pleated dress. When she glided and flew in, it was a strapless dress. Suddenly, she disappeared in a flash, and in the next moment, she suddenly appeared a few meters away. Every dance was graceful and light. The zither music and her clothes danced with the dance, bringing out the best in each other. It was too much for the eyes to take in, and they gasped in amazement. Hua Meifei has refined the rainbow skirt Gu. Xin Lian's eyes flashed, and he was surprised. Such a nimble and changing dance was not something an ordinary person could do. Even professional dancers could not do it. The graceful movements were like the skills of a first-rate martial artist in the pugilistic world. Naturally, it was the miraculous effect of the rainbow skirt Gu. Seeing this scene, Zhou Kai-shi, Hua Meifei's best friend, suddenly moved to Xin Lian's side and whispered, "Big brother Xin, Hua Meifei put in a lot of effort to make you smile. Do you like it? Did I perform this dance for you?" Xin Lian's heart shook and his face lit up. No matter which man it was, if they knew that a girl had painstakingly performed this unique dance for them, they would be touched. The zither music slowly stopped, and the dance also ended at the same time. The almost perfect performance made the world silent for a while before it burst into thunderous cheers. "Good! Hua Meifei, you dance so well." Su Xiaoling's zither music is also very beautiful. Their song and dance were perfectly coordinated. They must have put in a lot of effort to have such tacit understanding. Su Xiaoling stood up and bowed to thank everyone. Hua Meifei was panting, but her face was full of smiles, and her gaze was fixed on Xin Lian. "Wonderful! Wonderful!" Xin Lian clapped and praised, and nodded to Hua Meifei with a smile. Hua Meifei's shy face turned red, and she cutely stuck out her tongue at him. The painting boat gradually sailed out of Autumn Moon Lake, and entered a 10-li-long man-made river. After a while, it rushed into the surging Wei River. Wei River's surface was wide, and the water level was high. The water flow was smooth, and the painting boat's speed was much faster. Waves of refreshing wind carried the smell of river water in from outside the window, making people feel comfortable. Some people were happy while others were unhappy. And Yun Han's expression was sinister, and his heart was gloomy as he thought, "Among these people, I am clearly the most outstanding person, the strongest Gu master. But they still don't put me in their eyes, just like before." He felt that he was already a Gu master, a cut above others, and was looking forward to being in the spotlight. Everyone worshipped him, praised his strength, and even easily obtained Hua Meifei's favor, and captured the hearts of all the women. This was how it should be. But the huge difference between reality and expectations made Yun Han extremely unhappy. He walked on the two extremes of inferiority and arrogance. After thinking about it, he blamed everything on Xin Lian. It was Xin Lian's appearance that took away everything he wanted. Unknowingly, a sharp dart appeared in his hand and he started to play with it. The dart floated above his palm, moving left and right along with his fingers. Its speed was extremely fast, flashing with cold light and carrying some kind of indescribable killing intent. Compared to the last time, when he used all his strength to make the wine cup fly in Fei Hua Building, he was much more adept at controlling objects. His mental strength was clearly stronger. It was the deep hatred that gave him greater strength. Jiang Huaihua was extremely envious and said, "Brother Yun Han, your mental strength Gu is really amazing. What rank has it evolved to?" And Yun Han's mouth twitched, and he looked coldly at Xin Lian. With some pride, he proudly said, "To tell you the truth, I was lucky enough to break through white level and advance to bronze level 1 Gu master." While being proud, the dart flew around the room, and several times brushed past people's clothes, causing them to cry out in surprise. Hua Meifei took a glance and frowned. "And Yun Han, put away the dart, it won't be good if you hurt someone." And Yun Han laughed heartily and boasted, Don't worry, I have already reached the realm of being able to control objects freely, I definitely won't. Before he finished his words, a crashing sound was heard. The dart suddenly hit a vase, and the vase fell to the ground. The floor was littered with fragments. Hua Meifei fiercely glared at An Yunhan, and An Yunhan's expression immediately changed. The scene was extremely awkward. Xin Lian smiled and said, "Horses stumble, people make mistakes. I believe Brother Yunhan only made a mistake, and did not do it on purpose." Hua Meifei's anger immediately turned into laughter. Brother Shen is still broad-minded and magnanimous. And Yunhan lowered his head, his veins popping out. The black vortex above his head became denser and denser, and slowly sank down. Xin Lian took a glance, and the corners of his mouth curled up, thinking in his heart, "Soon." Right at this time, someone suddenly reported, "There is a fast boat behind us, and it seems to be coming for us." "Ah, we won't be robbed, right?" Jiang Huaihua exclaimed, "We have just entered the Wei River, and this area has always been peaceful. Nothing has happened." Everyone walked out of the turret and went to the deck outside. 3 miles downstream, an ironclad ship was advancing rapidly, and soon caught up with them. The two ships advanced side by side. Someone on the ironclad ship put down a plank between the two ships, and more than 10 people stepped on the plank and boarded the painted ship one after another. Immediately, an even larger black vortex shrouded them. "How can it be him?" Hua Meifei's face suddenly turned ugly when he saw the young man with a sharp chin in the lead. "Wan Yong, Wan Yong." Jiang Huaihua was tongue-tied like a mouse seeing a cat. "Who is this man?" Xin Lian frowned and asked. Next to him, Zhou Caishi's face was slightly pale, and she whispered, "He is Wan Yong, Wan Sanyi's son. In Ronghua City, he is unscrupulous." "Wan Sanyi's son?" Xin Lian's expression changed slightly, and he said in surprise, "I heard that Wan Sanyi has a daughter and a son, but Wan Sanyi drove them out of the house and gave all his property to Lu Ri. He is just a son who has lost his favor. Why are you so afraid of him?" Zhou Caishi sighed. "You don't know, Wan Sanyi just doesn't want his daughter and son to inherit his property. In fact, Wan Sanyi loves and supports them very much, which also gives them great power. Didn't you see that? Even Hua Meifei can't afford to offend him." Wan Yong walked quickly, and his cold eyes fell on Hua Meifei, and he shouted, "Where is Su Shaoling?" Hua Meifei's face turned pale, and he said in a trembling voice, "This is the boat I booked. What do you want to do?" Wan Yong snorted disdainfully, his nostrils facing the sky as he grinned hideously. "Do you believe that I will strip you naked right now, defile you 1,000 times, and throw you into the river to feed the fishes? Your father and your uncle, the commander of the garrison troops, won't even dare to fart." Hua Meifei was ashamed and angry, and tears immediately came out of his eyes. However, everyone lowered their heads and kept quiet out of fear. No one dared to stand up for Hua Meiping. Wan Yong waved his hand and said, "Search!" Behind him, more than a dozen big men rushed into the turret, and soon someone shouted, "Young master, found it!" Wan Yong's expression lit up as he hurriedly rushed into the turret. Everyone looked at each other, and soon Su Xiaoling's scream came from the turret, shouting for help. B*TCH shut up. Why do you look so much like that B*TCH Lu Rui? Take off your clothes. Wan Yong's crazy and sinister laughter echoed on the deathly silent deck. Xin Lian touched the tip of his nose and glanced at a certain person, saying solemnly, "Brother Yunhan, you are the strongest among us, please save Su Shaoling, and punish evil and promote good." As he spoke, wisps of black smoke-like things formed from the black vortex and floated into An Yunhan's forehead. Only Xin Lian could see this scene. His heart shook. This should be the new special effect of Calamity Goo, Heart Demon Corruption. When the power of words penetrated deep into people's hearts, shaking their wills and polluting their reason, people would go crazy. Sure enough, when An Yunhan heard Xin Lian's words, he turned pale with fright. Everyone looked over simultaneously. That's right. And Yun Han was showing off his darts just now. And Yun Han took a step back and said in panic, "Why aren't you looking at me? He is Wan Yong, how would I dare to offend him?" So, Brother Yun Han does not dare to face evil and uphold justice, and does not even have the heart to be a hero saving a beauty? Xin Lian sneered, and another wisp of black smoke shot into Yun Han's forehead. "I thought Brother Yun Han was a great hero who dared to take responsibility for his actions, but I did not expect you to be such an Yun Han. It is truly disappointing." And Yun Han was extremely gloomy as he argued. "Upholding justice, that also depends on the situation," Xin Lian snorted. "In other words, you only dare to bare your fangs and brandish your claws against enemies weaker than you, but when you encounter enemies stronger than you, even if the evil is right in front of you, you turn a blind eye to it?" And Yun Han was speechless. Anger rose in his heart. He hated Xin Lian for obtaining everyone's approval and love, hated everyone for ignoring him. He hated his own cowardice even more. The black vortex swallowed him little by little. When he came back to his senses, he was already standing in front of the turret door. He focused his gaze and saw Wan Yong pressing Su Shaoling down and tearing her clothes. And Yun Han screamed as if he had gone mad. The dart whizzed out, rushing straight toward Wan Yong. "Young master, be careful." A big man's eyes flashed, and he suddenly blocked in front of Wan Yong, catching the flying dart. Puff! The dart stabbed into the flesh of his palm, piercing through half of it. The big man grimaced in pain. Wan Yong was shocked and stunned for a moment. Suddenly, he became furious and roared, "Catch this brat, I want to cripple him!" More than a dozen big men rushed forward, and Yun Han suddenly came to his senses, looking confused. "Where am I? What am I doing?" He did not have any martial arts skills. He did have psychokinesis, but he did not have any combat ability. Under the siege, he panicked and did not know what to do. He was knocked to the ground after 2 or 3 moves. More than a dozen big men punched and kicked, and Yun Han howled miserably. A moment later, Yun Han was crippled. Wan Yong came over with the dart, looking extremely gloomy. He raised it and stabbed it down, and raised it again and again, leaving more than a dozen bloody holes in Yun Han's body. Blood flowed all over the ground, and Yun Han was dead. Chapter 57. "Don't leave anyone alive, you want to kill us all?" Hua Meifei was terrified, her pretty face instantly turned pale. Trouble started with Su Shaoling. Hua Meifei had never thought she would encounter such a calamity. Wan Yong was vicious and merciless, running amok without fear. If he said he would do it, then he would do it. He wanted to kill everyone on the boat. "No. I don't want to die. Young Master Wan, please spare me. Young Master Wan, please spare me." The others were all scared silly, horrified and pleading. Many of them directly knelt down and kowtowed to Wan Yong non-stop. Xin Lian sighed. Looking at these people kneeling and begging for mercy, he was speechless. He thought, Wan Yong is obsessed with Su Shaowan, who looks like his stepmother, and wants to defile her. Such a filthy thing makes one's hair stand on end. Once this news spreads, Wan San and Lu Rui will lose all face. How will they face others in the future? How can such a scandal be known by outsiders and spread? Those who know will all die. From the moment Wan Yong boarded the boat, he had already planned to kill everyone on the boat. What's the use of begging for mercy? The great Tao is simple, looking at the essence through the appearance. Through the relationship between the appearance and the appearance, you can find the law of the development of things and thus predict the future. Sigh, such a simple thing, yet you can't see through it. Even if you kowtow 10,000 times, it won't change anything. Xin Lian couldn't help but glance at Wan Yong. Wan San's son does things without any scruples, killing people like flies. He is very similar to those aristocratic children. Could it be that Wan San's family is also an aristocratic family? Wan San is only a merchant on the surface, but he can build a goo garden and amass endless wealth. He is the richest man in the north, and no one can shake his position. His background is definitely not simple. This might be a good opportunity for me, Shen Lian thought, then looked at the dead and Yun Han, speechless. This guy was a bronze rank 1 Gu master, but he was so weak, too trashy. Even if he had a battle strength of 5 dregs, he wouldn't be in such a tragic state. No, this guy should still be a white level. He's just bragging. At this moment, the black vortex that enveloped Yun Han's body gathered toward the center and turned into a grain-sized ball of pure black disaster power. In a flash, it flew toward Shen Lian and entered between his eyebrows. Bewitching the descent of human calamity. Obtained 300 bewitchment points. A strange voice sounded in Shen Lian's mind, and he couldn't help but smile. Yun Han, although you are trash, your death still has some value. Looking up, there was an even larger black vortex brewing intensely. It enveloped all the people on the ship. Killing intent surged, as if doomsday had arrived. A bunch of animals! Wan Yong grinned, his expression extremely indifferent. He ignored those begging for mercy, flicked his sleeve, and walked towards the wooden plank between the 2 boats. A strong retainer followed behind him, holding down Su Shaoling. The other retainers were full of killing intent, staring at Hua Meifei and the others, raising their swords and sabers. They were in imminent danger, between life and death. Right at this moment. Actually, I didn't want to be exposed so quickly. Shen Lian sighed softly, pulling out his sword from its sheath. A sword light flashed, and heaven and earth lost their color. Splash! The sound of water splashing could be heard. The wooden plank between the 2 boats suddenly broke and fell into the river. Wan Yong's footsteps stopped and he was stunned. He looked and saw that the wooden plank leading to the iron-armored ship had actually fallen. Almost at the next moment, he felt an inexplicable coldness on his neck. A cold sword edge was placed horizontally on Wan Yong's neck. Shen Lian smiled faintly and grabbed Wan Yong's neck, and with a slight twist, pressed him to the ground. Young master! Those retainers were extremely stunned, and their faces turned pale with fright. Impudent! Let go of young master! The retainer closest to him pushed away Su Shaoling, and rushed over, fiercely slapping at Shen Lian's right arm that was holding the sword. This palm had some skill, combining hardness and gentleness, and the fierce strength was wrapped in layers of soft and gentle strength. When it arrived in front of Shen Lian, the palm suddenly split into 3. The 3 palm shadows were illusory, and yin and yang intertwined, making it difficult to distinguish which one was real. Good! Shen Lian laughed loudly, and with his eyes squinted, he also sent out a palm. As his palm moved forward, it suddenly split into 3, and met the 3 palm shadows. That retainer had an expression as if he had seen a ghost. This shadow-split palm was his family's ultimate skill, and he was the only inheritor in the world. His palm was like a dragon, changing 3 times, making it difficult to distinguish the real from the fake. Even those top-notch martial masters in the martial arts world, and even Gu masters with special abilities, were unable to discern the trajectory of his attack in an instant. Many experts had suffered losses under his palm, but were unable to do anything about it. Who was this person, and why did he also know the shadow-split palm? A moment later, the 2 palms collided. Bang! At the moment of contact, the retainer sensed something, and his hair stood on end, and his scalp went numb. The terrifying strength caused his whole body to tremble. His whole body was swept away by the majestic strength, and the bones in his palms were crushed, and even his entire arm was broken. Accompanied by a miserable cry, the retainer was also sent flying. He raised his head and spat out a high arc of blood. The retainer fell 7 to 8 meters away. He was not dead, but half dead. He struggled to raise his head and looked at Shen Lian. How do you know the shadow-split palm? If he did not figure this out, he would not die in peace. Oh, so this move is called the shadow split palm. Xun Lian laughed and replied magnanimously, I am a martial arts genius, and I can learn any martial arts move with one look. I can even draw inferences about other moves, and surpass my master. Actually, when you used this move, there was a small problem with the strength of your waist. Was your waist injured before? You. The retainer was tongue-tied, and spat out a big mouthful of blood and fainted. He did not know that after the Grandmaster Gu evolved to the silver level, it had a special effect called Grandmaster of a Generation. Just like what Xun Lian said, any martial arts in front of him, as long as he saw half a move, he could instantly learn and use it, and the power would be even stronger. After all, that was the counterattack of a Grandmaster of a Generation. Did I see wrongly? Brother Denai was defeated in one move, and he was defeated by his family's secret art. The other retainers looked at each other, and were extremely shocked. As Denai fainted, all their emotions turned into fear, and they shuddered. Let me go, I told you to let me go. Wan Yong was pressed to the ground, and his face was on the ground. This was something that had never happened before, and one could imagine the anger in his heart. No matter who you are dead. I will tear you into pieces, and your family, I will kill them all. You are a prisoner, yet you still dare to speak such arrogant words. So you are just a spoiled idiot. Xun Lian sneered, and pressed the wind-chasing sword on Wan Yong's neck, shouting, Tell your men to jump off the boat. Wan Yong's eyes were about to split open, and he roared, Kill him, quickly kill him for me. Quickly. Before he finished speaking, he stopped abruptly. The wind-chasing sword was lightly pressed, and the edge of the sword pierced into his flesh. Wan Yong only felt a chill on his neck, and then a warm liquid flowed out, followed by pain. This made him feel terrified. See, you will also bleed, and you will also die. So, if you dare to be arrogant again, I will make you regret being born into this world. Xun Lian was like a demon looking down from above. I will give you one last chance, tell your men to jump off the boat, immediately, right now. Xun Lian was incomparably domineering, and there was no room for doubt. Wan Yong became more and more afraid. This person was not joking. He gave in faster than anyone expected, and he shouted, All of you, jump off the boat. The retainers looked at each other, and one of them took 2 steps forward, cupped his hands and said, Brother, our young master is Wan San's son. You should know the consequences of hurting him, and I hope you will not do something too late to regret. After saying that, he was the first to jump into the river, and the others followed, splashing into the water for a while. Xun Lian looked at Jiang Huaihua and said, Go get a rope and tie Wan Yong up. Jiang Huaihua did not dare, and shook his head like a rattledrum. Seeing this, Wan Yong laughed and said, He doesn't dare. If he touches a hair of mine, his whole family will be buried with him. Xun Lian was speechless, and he lifted Wan Yong up and slapped him, raising his face high. From now on, without my permission, if you dare to say a word, I will pull out one of your teeth. Wan Yong's expression was extremely gloomy, and he only stared at Xun Lian, and kept his mouth shut. Brother Xun, I will go get the rope. At this time, a timid voice was heard. Su Xiaoling's eyes were filled with tears, but he looked at Xun Lian with a face full of admiration. You are courting death. Wan Yong roared fiercely. Bang. Chapter 58. All his teeth were broken at the base. It was so painful. Wan Yong covered his mouth and fell to the ground. He was in so much pain that he started crying. He looked at the teeth on the deck. There were 5 of them. He felt a bit aggrieved. Didn't you say 1 tooth for each word? I only said 3 words. Xun Lian smiled. His smile was scarier than the devil's. You talk a lot. I hope you have a lot of teeth too. Woo-woo. Wan Yong shook his head decisively. He covered his mouth tightly and kept quiet out of fear. This scene was like a meteor crashing to the ground. It was so visually shocking that everyone was shocked. From the moment Shen Lian cut the plank, to the moment he caught the leader, and then to the moment he forced the entourage to retreat, it all happened within a minute. While everyone was still in a state of extreme fear and waiting for death, Shen Lian and his entourage got rid of Wan Yong and his entourage quickly. The arrogant Wan Yong was beaten like a dog. That was Wan San's son. No one had ever seen him in such a sorry state. It was so satisfying to see him like this. Brother Shen, what should we do next? Hua Meifei walked over. His eyes were shining and his heart was pounding. He looked at Shen Lian with an expression that said, "Whatever you say." Shen Lian glanced at the iron-armored ship and said, "Turn the ship around. We'll go back and speed up. We'll shake off the iron-armored ship. When we reach the shore, we'll immediately inform the government office that we've encountered robbers and captured their leader." Hua Meifei looked at Wan Yong. He seemed to understand something. He nodded heavily and left in a hurry. At this moment, Su Shaoling excitedly came with a thick rope. He handed it to Shen Lian excitedly. A strange emotion was reflected in his eyes. Shen Lian dragged Wan Yong up and tied him up. While tying up Wan Yong, Shen Lian suddenly noticed a detail. Where Wan Yong had fallen, there was a small porcelain bottle with the outline of a jade gourd. It had been smashed, and a clear liquid flowed out and quickly evaporated. A slightly green odorless gas diffused in the air. A strange smile appeared on Wan Yong's face. "What's in this small porcelain bottle?" Shen Lian's heart trembled slightly. He grabbed Wan Yong's neck, his eyes as fierce as a tiger's and as majestic as a mountain. His heart thumped violently, and the faint roar of a dragon reverberated in the air, forming an immense pressure of divine might. Wan Yong's hair stood on end. He felt as if all the blood in his body was flowing backward. The air was clearly around him, but he couldn't breathe smoothly. It was extremely uncomfortable, and his face gradually turned purple. You'll know what it is soon." Wan Yong's face gradually twisted, and his eyes full of fear flashed with a cold light of resentment. Shen Lian squinted slightly, thinking, Wan Yong is right here. He can't release poison or something like that. What could it be? Ah, why is there fog? Suddenly, Jiang Huaihua exclaimed. In just a few breaths, dense fog rose from the surface of the river. It gradually thickened and the visibility dropped rapidly. After a while, they could only see around 3 or 4 meters away. Even the huge iron-armored ships that were parallel to them only left a vague shadow. The black swirl above their heads rapidly expanded to 10 times its original size, and it was still expanding. The pitch-black vortex slowly sank down like a black hole, as if it wanted to devour everyone's flesh and blood without leaving anything behind. Shen Lian looked at the thick fog around them and the black swirl above their heads. His face quickly darkened. Splash! Bang! Something broke out of the water and hit the hull of the ship. Shen Lian quickly came to the side of the ship and looked down. The fog was so thick that he couldn't see anything clearly in the water. He could only see that the oars were still moving. At some point, one of the oars suddenly flew out, as if it had been pulled away by something in the river. "Get the torches!" Shen Lian shouted. At this moment, Shen Lian was the backbone of the group. At his command, everyone quickly took action. Not long after, more than 20 torches and oil lamps were ready. Shen Lian asked everyone to place the torches around the hull, and the oil lamps were distributed on the deck. The flames dispersed the fog, and the deck could finally be seen clearly. He took an oil lamp, tied the handle with a rope, and lowered the ship until it was close to the surface of the river. The moment the light pierced through the fog, Shen Lian saw something, and his pupils couldn't help but shrink. There were many black shadows in the water, swimming around the ship. With a splash, a black fish broke out of the water. The black fish was almost 2 meters long, bigger than a person. It had sharp fangs, and it pounced on the mahogany hull, biting off a piece of wood. It was only then that Shen Lian could see clearly that the ship was surrounded by these gigantic black fishes. They were biting and tearing the ship's hull apart. At the same time, the oars were being pulled away one by one. Not far away, there seemed to be something terrifying lurking in the water. Big Brother Shen, it's not good. Hua Meifei anxiously ran back, her face full of horror. The boatman's oars were taken away by something in the water. I saw it. Xin Lian pressed her hand to calm her down. Gather everyone in the turret. Before he finished speaking, there was a clang. The oil lamp was knocked over by the fish's tail, and the flame suddenly lit up and then went out. Then, whoosh! A loud splashing sound was heard, followed by a blood-curdling scream. Xin Lian turned around and saw a huge black fish more than 2 meters long jump onto the deck, biting a girl's left leg with its fangs. With a shake of its tail, it jumped up again and dragged the girl into the water. The world was dead silent. Ah! Everyone screamed in horror a few seconds later. Hua Meifei and Su Shaoling were so scared that their faces turned pale. They subconsciously grabbed Xin Lian's clothes and leaned against him. Even Jiang Huaihua came close and hugged Xin Lian's thigh. Shut up! Xin Lian was speechless. He shouted, "Everyone, take refuge in the turret immediately." Everyone came back to their senses and rushed into the turret. Only Xin Lian and Wan Yong were left on the deck. "Wan Yong, I didn't expect you to attract a demon." Xin Lian grinned and looked at him coldly. Wan Yong laughed sinisterly. "You're dead. Everyone on this ship will die." "Oh, did you forget that you're also on this ship?" "I won't be here anymore." "Ha ha." Wan Yong laughed maniacally. Suddenly, his body burst out with a dazzling light. The light lingered around his body, forming a huge oval-shaped light film that covered him. In the next moment, Wan Yong suddenly disappeared from the spot. Teleportation goo! Xin Lian was shocked. He couldn't stop him in time, and could only watch as Wan Yong teleported away. Wan Yong is also a goo master? No, he was restrained by me. From start to finish, I didn't feel any primeval essence flowing in his body. He's not a goo master. Someone teleported him away. But here, there was no one else except Xin Lian. How was Wan Yong teleported away, and by whom? Chapter 59. But before Xin Lian could think any further, he heard a splash. A 2-meter-long black fish broke out of the water and jumped high into the air, creating a large splash as it rushed to the deck. The black fish bared its fangs and pounced at him, bringing with it a pungent smell of blood. Xin Lian narrowed his eyes slightly. His sword flashed and drew a mysterious trajectory in the air. The black fish slid across the deck and passed by Xin Lian, crashing into the other side of the ship. Immediately, a large hole appeared on the fish's stomach and its internal organs fell out. The black fish did not die immediately. It stubbornly struggled a few times before falling off the ship. Walala, the sound of water surged in the river. After this black fish fell into the water, the smell of blood attracted the other black fish to attack it. They fought to tear it apart and it was quickly divided and eaten. Cannibalism was truly savage. Is that all? Xin Lian was somewhat disappointed. Compared to the mandrill, these black fish did not seem to be true monsters. They were just larger and more savage than ordinary river fish. He did not even need to use the power of the goo. He could easily deal with them with his powerful body. In particular, these black fish were not weak at all. They were 2 meters long and weighed over 200 kilograms. The speed at which they jumped out of the water was extremely ferocious, and the impact was fierce. Their fangs were also abnormally sharp. Being bitten by them would cause serious injuries. Even being hit by them was enough to cause a fishing boat to flip over. If they were on land, they would have the physique of a black bull and the personality of a hungry wolf. Ordinary people would not be their match. The fishermen on the Wei River all knew that these black fish were extremely savage and aggressive. They usually lived in the deep waters and would sometimes hunt in the submerged layer. If they encountered them, they would quickly row the boat and escape. If they were too late, they would become fish food and not even their bones would be left. Moreover, the black fish had the advantage in numbers. Moments later, another black fish pounced towards him. Shun Lian calmly turned his body sideways, and the black fish slid past him. He raised his wind-chasing sword high up, and slashed it down with a brilliant stroke. Puff! The sword slashed down as easily as cutting vegetables. The fish's head instantly separated from its body and was cut in two. Instant kill. Shun Lian leisurely walked over and kicked the fish's head and body off the boat. Immediately there was a commotion in the water. Almost at the next moment, two black fish pounced from the two sides of the boat. Shun Lian glanced at it from the corner of his eye and kept his sword back into its scabbard. Suddenly, he dashed towards one of the black fishes and went behind it. He grabbed the fish's tail, swung it up and threw it towards the black fish. A muffled sound rang out. The two black fishes came into close contact with each other. The huge impact shattered the fishes' skulls, and they tumbled off the boat. About 3 miles away, on the iron-armored ship, a dozen squires were kneeling on the deck, soaking wet. Their heads were lowered, and their faces were pale. A bunch of useless things. You actually watched as this young master was captured. What use do I have for you? Die, all of you! Atone for your sins. The one who was shouting was Wan Yong, who had disappeared from Shun Lian's sight. But he stopped after shouting a few sentences. It was not that he had calmed down, but that his toothache was too severe, and he could not continue shouting. He had to use a handkerchief to cover his mouth. One of the retainers sighed and cupped his hands. Young master, it is not that we are not working hard, but the opponent's martial arts are too high. If that person had been ruthless, I'm afraid none of us would have survived. Wan Yong was furious and kicked him away. He took away the blood-stained handkerchief and scolded, "Trash! You live for me to die at any time, do you understand?" The retainer did not dodge and took the kick. He knew this person was angry and quickly changed the topic, asking curiously, "How did young master escape?" Another retainer was also surprised. "Young master returned to the iron-armored ship before us, how did you do it?" Wan Yong snickered and pointed at the jade bracelet on his wrist. "Do you know what this is? This treasure is called a teleportation bead. It was made by a spatial-type Gu master and can teleport people to a specific location within a 10-li radius. The so-called specific locations are the places you have been to before. When you encounter danger, you just need to crush the teleportation bead and think of a place you have been to before, and the teleportation power will send you there." "What a treasure! Young master is so lucky." The retainers were all envious and flattered him. Some even asked where the teleportation bead could be sold. Wan Yong scoffed, "Idiot, you think you can buy it with money? The teleportation bead is priceless. One bead is at least 10 million taels. Even I, who borrowed my father's face, only got 2. Saying so, Wan Yong's heart was filled with hatred. That unknown brat had beaten him up and made him lose a teleportation bead. If he did not take revenge, his anger would not be appeased and he would not be able to avenge himself. Wan Yong stared at the fog in front of him, his eyes almost spewing fire. "Move the ship closer, I want to see that brat get dismembered by the chelating demon." A certain retainer's expression changed and he said worriedly, "Young master, you must not. The chelating demon is causing trouble in this area and has great ability. If it goes berserk, I'm afraid it will even attack us." Wan Yong glanced at him with a cold gaze. That retainer shuddered and immediately shut up. "The chelating demon has great intelligence, it is not a wild beast like you think it is. It is much smarter than humans. Moreover, the chelating demon and Wan clan have an agreement, it has never attacked Wan clan's merchant ships for decades. You can relax and drive the ship over, nothing will happen." Hearing Wan Yong's words, the others could not say anything and could only drive the iron-armored ship closer. A moment later, the two ships were 50 meters away, and they could already see the painting ship illuminated by the fire. Wan Yong squinted for a while and waved his hand. "I can't see clearly, move closer." The iron-armored ship moved forward another 30 meters, and with a distance of 20 meters, they could vaguely see the scene on the deck. But when they saw what was happening on the deck, everyone turned silent with a stupefied expression. This. Wan Yong's eyes opened wide in disbelief. Is that Bradagu master? Wan Yong's expression was as if he had just woken up and asked around. Doesn't look like it. He did not use any ability and is only using his body to fight. What great strength! He actually threw the black fish away. He actually punched through the black fish's head. A certain retainer was stupefied and tongue-tied. His expression was as if he had seen a monster. Enough. Wan Yong was impatient and roared, You actually bullshit! Other than saying actually, what else can you say? Suddenly, there was a huge splash not far away, like a fountain rising up. Wan Yong was overjoyed and laughed loudly, shouting, The chelating demon is here! The chelating demon is here! Let's see how this brat dies! The turbid waves surged and crashed onto the painting ship, causing the entire ship to sway. The dark fishes suddenly stopped their attacks and scattered in all directions. Shen Lian raised his head and his gaze flashed. He saw that in the depths of the fog, there was a huge figure slowly rising. Before he could see the full appearance of the demon, something suddenly broke out of the fog and smashed towards him. Shen Lian's pupils shrunk. That was a commissary, shaped like the front commissary of a crayfish. It was close to 10 meters long and was copper-red in color. When the commissary were opened, the width in the middle was more than 1 meter, like 2 sharp pillars. There was a loud bang. The commissary smashed into the bow of the ship and directly smashed through the deck, leaving a huge hole when it was pulled out. The painting ship shook. Next, the commissary swept across and hit the turret, scraping off the triangular top of the turret. Ah! The people in the turret screamed and fled in panic. In the panic, some people directly jumped into the water, but they did not know that there was a vicious black fish waiting for them in the water. This is a real demon? Shen Lian clicked his tongue, feeling an indescribable excitement, as if he had been longing for a battle to his heart's content. Not bad, you are much more daring than that, Xiao. I have already endured for a long time. I will use you as an example. Swoosh. Shen Lian unsheathed his sword and the primeval essence in the Grandmaster Gu's aperture surged out crazily, wrapping around the chasing wind sword. The silver-white sword's body shone with a cold light. When the commissary swept over again, Shen Lian jumped up and slashed down with his sword. A sword mark remained in the air, and did not dissipate for a long time. The incomparably sharp sword edge accurately cut at the joint of the commissary and the commissary. The commissary's outer shell was as hard as iron, but the joint here was not as hard, it was the weak point. Only to hear a crisp cracking sound from the outer shell, the sword edge was slightly delayed and unobstructed, directly cutting down. Chapter 60. The sword light was still shining brightly. After Shen Lian cut off the crab pincer, his chasing wind sword crisscrossed and turned into a meat grinder, crazily chopping at the limbs behind the pincer. The sword marks left behind in the air were dense, like rays of light dancing in the air. In the blink of an eye, 5 to 6 meter long limbs were cut off like hair scissors. The attack was so fast, it was too much for the eyes to take in. The whole world seemed to be frozen. The huge shadow shrouded in the thick fog seemed to be fixed. It did not move for a long time, allowing Shen Lian to chop at it. Wan Yong's scalp went numb. What's wrong with the Shalan demon? Its shell is indestructible, even the mechanical crossbow cannot break it. Even if that kid has a treasure sword that can break the Shalan demon's shell, the Shalan demon should be able to dodge. One of the retainers heard this and said in shock, Young master, it is not that the Shalan demon's shell is not good, it is that person is too strong. It is not that the Shalan demon does not dodge, it is that the Shalan demon cannot dodge that person's attack. Another retainer was also incomparably shocked, exclaiming, His sword technique is too sharp, as fast as lightning, like a storm, majestic and unstoppable. The Shallan demon's body is big, its movement speed is relatively slow, it cannot react at all. You are saying that kid is stronger than the Shallan demon? Wan Yong's hair stood on end, his expression was ugly as if he had eaten a fly. The retainers were silent, seeing was believing. Wan Yong could not help but be greatly shocked, exclaiming, "Who is this kid?" One of the retainers clicked his tongue. The Shallan demon's shell has already been broken, its original form does not have any advantage, it can only transform into form and use goo to fight, it might have a chance to win. Wan Yong heard this and thought for a while, saying excitedly, "You are right. The Shallan demon's water arrow goo can shoot tens of thousands of arrows, it is extremely powerful, it can kill on the river, it can even pierce through iron-armored ships, no one is its opponent." While speaking, the thick fog violently rolled, the huge shadow flashed and disappeared. Xinlian frowned slightly. Suddenly, his eyes focused as he saw a figure appear on the deck. That ghostly figure was shrouded in the mist and couldn't be seen clearly. However, one could vaguely see that it was a human silhouette. It was nearly 3 meters tall and gave off a huge sense of oppression. "Haha, look, the Shallan demon has indeed transformed." Seeing this scene, Wan Yong cheered. "That kid is dead for sure this time." The retainers blushed with shame. Demons and humans were irreconcilable. Logically speaking, they should be cheering for the Xinlian. But now they had to encourage the demons. Their feelings were a bit complicated. A certain retainer sighed, "The Gui Yao's cultivation is still shallow, it cannot transform completely, this will greatly limit the water arrow Gu's power, it is hard to say who will win." "That's right, only a demon that has completely transformed can be like us humans, wantonly activating the mystical power of Gu. The current Gu Master's path of Gu Masters is still far from it." Another retainer nodded, agreeing. "In this world, there are countless races, but only humans have the closest affinity with Gu. If other races want to raise Gu, refine Gu, or use Gu, they must first transform into human form. This is the greatest advantage of humans." "That's right. We have to thank the great Renzu for this. When Renzu created the human race, he gave the human race a unique advantage, allowing the human race to form a bond with Gu. Renzu is the first Gu master in history. Not only did he create the human race, he also taught the human race how to raise Gu, refine Gu, and use Gu, allowing the human race to have the power to protect themselves in this dangerous and unpredictable world. Renzu is too great." The retainers spoke one after another, the topic getting further and further away. Wan Yong was impatient, saying sternly, "Shut up, what Renzu, it is only a legend on the streets, you believe this kind of rumor?" The retainers consciously shut up, not daring to argue. They all looked at the painting boat, nervously paying attention. The mist gradually dissipated, the Shallan demon finally revealed its human form. At first glance, it looked like a human, but in fact, it was very far from a human. It was 3 meters tall, covered in a copper-red shell, covered in protruding bone spikes. Its eyes were protruding, the pupils were vertical, and there were also 2 curved teeth hanging at the corners of its mouth. The Shallan demon's hand was still in the shape of a pincer, its right forearm was already crippled. Xinlian looked at it seriously, his face full of curiosity. The Shallan demon suddenly spoke in human language. "You beast, you actually have the ability to cut off my arm, no wonder Wan Clan wants to borrow my hand to get rid of you." The voice was hoarse and deep, but unusually smooth. Xinlian could not help but raise his eyebrows, suppressing the surprise in his heart, his eyes reflecting a trace of coldness. "So you are colluding with Wan Clan?" The Shallan demon sneered. "Colluding? What a joke. Wan Clan is just a beast that sacrificed to our river monster clan for self-protection. What qualifications do they have to collude with me?" He raised his left arm and pointed at Xinlian, his pincers opening and closing, You and the people on this boat are the beasts they sacrificed to me. Shen Lian understood that the human forces in Ronghua City could not defeat the monster, so they took the initiative to sacrifice to the monster. Thinking of this, he sighed. No wonder ordinary people don't know the existence of demons at all. That's because the upper forces of the human race tried every means to cover it up, even deliberately concealing it. The purpose of doing this is to push some ordinary people into the bloody mouth of the monster at any time in exchange for their temporary safety. How ridiculous and weak this was! Shen Lian's murderous intent was surging. He pointed at the Shalan demon with the wind-chasing sword and grinned. Come on, let's see who is the beast. The Shalan demon was extremely angry. He gritted his teeth and roared. Beast, don't think you are so great just because you cut off my arm. Our monster clan's self-healing ability is very strong. The broken arm will grow back in 10 days or half a month. Before he finished his words, he was interrupted by a cold shout. You talk too much nonsense. Shen Lian shot out like an arrow and attacked with his sword. Seeing this, the Shalan demon laughed strangely. Water arrow Gu? Water arrow. The Shalan demon did not make any movements, but the river water on the deck suddenly flew up and turned into a water arrow in the air, shooting towards the Shalan demon. Water arrow? Shen Lian's pupils shrunk. He did not dare to be careless and used the first move of Raging Wave Sword style, Pushing Wave. At this time, Shen Lian was a bronze rank 10 Gu master, a grandmaster of his generation. His sword skills were exquisite and peerless. His primeval essence surged out and turned into sword chi waves that could be seen with the naked eye, forming a tidal wave. Swoosh! The tidal wave was ferocious and swallowed the incoming water arrow. What a powerful sword skill! The Shalan demon was astonished and did not dare to be careless anymore. He quickly waved his left arm and caused the river water below the ship to rise. In a flash, water arrows formed in the air and shot towards Shen Lian. At once, 50 to 60 water arrows shot towards him from the opposite side. There were also 10 water arrows that shot towards him from the top of his head in an arc. Shen Lian did not dodge. He had already understood the power of the water arrows from the first contact. The iron jade Gu immediately became active. Light surged on the surface of his body, and a strange layer of light expanded on his skin. It was about 5 centimeters thick, and looked like iron yet not iron, like jade yet not jade. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The water arrows shot towards him and hit Shen Lian's body. Good! Wan Yong was overjoyed and almost jumped up. The retainers nervously stretched their necks and looked into the distance without blinking. However, Shen Lian was like a whirlwind that charged through the concentrated water arrows. Some of the water arrows hit his body, while the others missed and landed on the deck, creating fist-sized holes in the deck. Shen Lian was extremely powerful and charged through. When he was 2 meters away from the Shalan demon, he suddenly shook his chasing wind sword and a mysterious sword flower appeared. The sword flower suddenly exploded in front of the Shalan demon's stunned gaze. Wan Yong and the rest seemed to have seen a firework exploding. It was gorgeous and beautiful. In a split second, a rain of bullets shot out from the sky. The rain of bullets was even bigger than before. The Shaoli flying dagger was also the same. The light was very threatening. Not only that, under Shen Lian's continuous hard work and comprehension, he added some rotation to the rain of bullets. This made the rain of bullets that shot in a straight line have an additional rotation force and a stronger penetrating force. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The Shalan demon had no time to dodge and was hit by the rain of bullets. After trembling as if it had been electrocuted, countless holes appeared on its shell and red and white blood flowed out. The Shalan demon was terrified and turned around to jump into the river. Where are you going? Shen Lian took a step forward. He was so fast that the distance of 2 meters was covered in the blink of an eye. The sword slashed at the Shalan demon's neck. The terrifying force hit the Shalan demon and made it fall to the ground. The shell on its neck rolled over and became a blur. Overflow rain sword technique. Shen Lian did not show any mercy and once again shook out a sword flower. With a burst of puff puff puff, the Shalan demon that fell on the deck trembled violently again. Its body was covered with wounds and there was no intact shell on its body. Wait! The Shalan demon was terrified and wanted to say something. Go to hell. The chasing wind sword pointed down and there was a red. It directly pierced through the Shalan demon's right eye. Shen Lian pulled out his sword and slashed 7 or 8 times. The Shalan demon's head was chopped into pieces before he stopped. Gulp! Wan Yong swallowed his saliva. His whole body was cold and he fell to the ground. His body was trembling. This man killed the Shalan demon. God, too fierce. All the retainers were stunned and showed an expression as if they had seen a ghost. The Shalan demon that had run rampant in the Wei River for more than 150 years was killed just like that? Chapter 61. Young Master, Nu Kuan's iron-armored ship is here. Should we retreat? A sharp-eyed retainer saw the flag fluttering in the wind and quickly reminded Wan Yong. After all, Nu Kuan was the #1 gang in the north. This area of water had always been peaceful. If the Shalan demons suddenly came here to cause trouble, it would definitely raise suspicions. The commotion was not small, and Nu Kuan had indeed noticed it. If Nu Kuan found out that it was Wan Yong who summoned the Shalan demons, a conflict would be unavoidable. If such a disgraceful matter spread out, Wan San's face would be tarnished. Most importantly, Nu Kuan definitely had a Gu master to suppress the situation, and Wan San knew his prodigal son too well. He was afraid that Wan Yong would cause some uncontrollable trouble, so he purposely did not arrange a Gu master among the retainers. Once a conflict broke out, this side would not be a match for Nu Kuan. Let's go, let's go. Wan Yong was utterly defeated, and replied weakly. Cold sweat poured down like rain and his face was extremely pale, as if his soul had left his body. He was really frightened. The iron-armored ship slowly turned around at this moment. Young Master, there is a problem in the water area ahead. The boatman at the helm discovered something, and his expression suddenly became tense. He saw that the water in the middle of the river seemed to be boiling, bubbling and bubbling, and the fishy smell in the air became thicker, making people nauseous. Immediately after, there was a loud rumble. The boiling water suddenly exploded, and a thick water pillar rose high into the air. This scene was extremely similar to a water mine exploding at the bottom of the river, causing huge waves. The water pillar rose to a height of over 100 meters before falling down. Immediately, huge turbid waves surged on the river surface, sweeping in all directions. The iron-armored ship Wan Yong was on was nearby, and it tilted violently from the impact of the huge waves. The people on the deck were caught off guard, and one by one, they rolled and fell into the river. Young Master! A retainer quickly grabbed a rope and tied it to the side of the ship, holding the rope with one hand and Wan Yong with the other. Whoosh! Almost in the next moment, the huge wave came crashing down ferociously, engulfing everyone's figures and also drowning out Wan Yong's ghostly wails and howls. A moment ago, after Shen Lian killed the sea serpent demon, he let out a long breath and thought to himself, "This demon's shell is extremely hard, and it has the strength of 10,000 pounds. Its water attack is excellent. If this demon continues to stay in the water, I'm afraid I can't do anything to it. If the river demon destroyed the painting boat first, for example, sinking it from the bottom and waiting for everyone to fall into the water, then no matter how good the Shen Lian's swimming skills were, he would not be its opponent and would be dead for sure. Actually, he didn't expect that the river demon would ascend to the deck and fight with him, allowing him to take advantage of the situation. In a flash, he killed the river demon and won the battle. Back then, choosing to refine dragon heart goo and strong root goo was the right choice. The demon's body is huge and its strength is astonishing. Without a strong physique, It is hard to win by relying only on the strength of the Gu. After a round of fighting, Shen Lian had a deep understanding. Just as he was thinking about this, suddenly, the sea serpent demon twitched. It's not dead yet? Shen Lian jumped away and held his sword with rapt attention. The body of the sea serpent demon suddenly enlarged, and its human shape changed. It turned into a huge, shell-like creature, which was not the shape of any creature that Shen Lian knew of. Its body was too big, and it spread to the side of the ship. It slowly slid down into the river, and its white belly floated on the water. So after the demon dies, it will show its true form. Shen Lian curled his lips and suddenly thought of journey to the west. The demon that was killed by the monkey would also show its true form. He could not help but smile, feeling like he was living in a legend. At this time, the black whirlpool that shrouded the sea serpent demon suddenly condensed and turned into a lump of calamity power, shooting into Shen Lian's forehead. Bewitching demon calamity descends, obtained 3,000 bewitchment points. A wonderful voice appeared in Shen Lian's mind. He was so happy that his mouth was crooked and he started moaning. Demon calamity, calamity power, and 3,000 bewitchment points. This was definitely a great harvest. Since Shen Lian subdued Wan Yong, he changed the life trajectory of everyone on the painting boat, which deeply stimulated Wan Yong and caused him to summon the river demon. In the end, the river demon died in his hands, ending the story perfectly. As soon as the river demon died, the thick fog quickly dispersed and became much thinner. Shen Lian focused his eyes and saw two iron-armored ships. One was moving away and the other was approaching. At this time, a towering water column exploded in the middle of the river. Terrifying waves swept over, almost overturning one of the iron-armored ships, and then hit the painting boat. Shen Lian moved quickly and hugged the mast with one arm. A wave of 7 to 8 meters high hit the painting boat, tilting it almost 70 degrees and pushing it hundreds of meters away. Ow! In the wave, the shadow of a giant python appeared. The python was so big that it was impossible to see its full appearance. With a sweep of its tail, huge waves rose again and again. Qilian River Demon, Nu Kuan is here. I won't let you stir up trouble. On the other iron-armored ship, a figure suddenly rose into the sky. That person had white hair and a beard. He stepped on the waves and there was a bright silver light in his palm. When he was about to reach the wave, his palm suddenly pressed down. Thunder vermin? Heaven's punishment! The bearded elder roared like thunder. Kaboom! It was like a divine thunder from the 9 heavens had descended and coincidentally struck the giant python. The twisted electric light spread out and the river water emitted black smoke. The giant python seemed to be in pain. Its body suddenly sank into the deep water, and the waves on the river became much smaller. The painting boat shook violently back and forth a few times before it stabilized. Shen Lian focused his eyes and saw a water bag on the river surface, pushing towards the painting boat quickly. Qilian, isn't the corpse of the sea demon enough for you to eat? If you dare to hurt the people on the painting boat, I will not rest until you die. The bearded elder stepped on the water surface and ran quickly, shouting angrily. However, compared to the water bag, he was obviously much slower and could not catch up. Kong Yu, if you have the ability, then try to stop me. This bastard dared to kill my river demon clan. I will take his life first. Then I will give you half a month to sacrifice his 3 clans to me. Otherwise, humph. The river demons in the Wei River will definitely attack Ronghua City and massacre the entire city. A terrifying scream came from the bottom of the water, making people shudder. As soon as he finished speaking, the water bag was less than 10 meters away from the painting boat. It could be seen that inside the water bag, there was a giant python head as big as a train. Its eyes were blood red, and it was fiercely crashing towards them. Kill me first, then sacrifice my 3 clans? Shen Lian was furious. He slashed with the wind-chasing sword, and the mast was broken from the bottom. Shen Lian's arms bulged and hugged the 10-meter-tall mast. He swung it diagonally and smashed it towards the water bag. "Oh my God!" the bearded elder exclaimed and was dumbfounded. With a boom, the mast fell and the high waves split to both sides. When the waves were gone, it could be seen that the mast had smashed on the python's head and made it sink down. "Good job!" The bearded old man was shocked. "Awesome!" He suddenly rushed over with bright lightning brewing in his palm. The python's tail shook and a wave swept over. The bearded elder had to dodge. "Deputy leader, let me help you." The iron-armored ship moved forward quickly. A middle-aged woman was standing at the bow with a purple longbow in her hand. But when she pulled the bowstring, a light arrow turned from virtual to real and shot out towards the sky. It drew an arc and broke the surface of the river and disappeared into the water. Immediately, a muffled groan came from the bottom of the river. Then the river's surface returned to normal. Chapter 62. Are you a human or a demon? The bearded old man asked seriously. Shen Lian was dazed. He sized up the bearded old man and smiled. "Of course I am a human, don't I look like one?" "You don't," the bearded old man said resolutely and seriously. Shen Lian was speechless. The bearded old man stroked his beard and slowly walked over with a curious expression. He pinched Shen Lian's biceps and exclaimed in surprise. "I have never seen anyone who can lift a mast, you are the first. These muscles are really firm. Do you have a body fusion type goo? That can't be right, I have never heard of a body fusion type goo that can make a person so fierce. Are you sure you are not a demon?" The bearded old man talked to himself and was immersed in his thoughts. Shen Lian did not know whether to laugh or cry. "Senior is? Oh, I forgot to introduce myself." The bearded old man came back to his senses and awkwardly took 3 steps back and tidied his clothes. "Old man, Kong Yu, New Kuan's vice leader, greets little brother." Shen Lian's pupils shrunk. He cupped his fists and replied, "Shen Lian, from Shueling City, currently living in Ronghua City." "Shen Lian?" Kong Yu thought carefully and confirmed that this was the first time he had heard of this name. He could not help but be puzzled, thinking to himself, Shen Lian is so strong, it is impossible for him to not have any fame. Shueling City seems to be a small city in the north. There are no families or sects there. Surname Shen. Is there a family with the surname Shen in Guyu country? Kong Yu's thoughts turned, and after a few seconds of silence, he suddenly smiled and asked, "Little brother Shen Lian, how old are you? Who is your master?" 18. I do not belong to any sects, I cultivate by myself. Shen Lian answered honestly. Cough cough. Kong Yu choked on a duck egg. He could not breathe properly. His old face turned red, and he showed an expression as if he had seen a ghost. "You're saying that you've trained yourself, and you're only 18 years old?" Kong Yu was dumbfounded. Looking at Shen Lian, he was so emotional that even his beard was fluttering. Shen Lian nodded. "Yes." "What rank are you?" Shen Lian thought to himself, "I have already exposed my strength earlier, there is no need to continue hiding it. I might as well reveal some of my trump cards, after all, my strength far surpasses those Gu masters of the same rank. I am bronze ranked level 10. Bronze? Level 10? Kong Yu was completely speechless. Looking at Shen Lian, he seemed to have aged a lot all of a sudden, with a touch of envy and complexity in his eyes. "You really are a monster." After a long silence, Kong Yu looked up at the sky and heaved a long sigh. His face was filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred. His heart felt stifled. At this moment, New Kuan's iron-armored ship approached. The middle-aged woman who shot the arrow also jumped over. Kong Yu hurriedly waved his hand and said excitedly, "Elder Bien, quickly come over and meet this 18-year-old bronze-ranked level 10 monster." "What? 18 years old, bronze-ranked level 10? The middle-aged woman heard and her expression changed. She stared at Shen Lian and gasped. "Little brother, how many apertures have you opened?" "How many apertures?" Are you asking how many apertures I have? Correct. 2 apertures. What rank are they? One is silver ranked level 1, and the other is bronze ranked level 10. Silver? Kong Yu and the middle-aged woman screamed at the same time, their eyeballs almost popping out. 18 years old, silver ranked. This talent is simply. Old man is already 64 years old, and only reached silver ranked level 5 after working hard for his whole life. I am 48 years old, and have been stuck at silver ranked level 3 for more than 10 years. Kong Yu and the middle-aged woman sighed. They both felt that they had lived their whole lives in vain. Shun Lian. Taking this opportunity, Shun Lian hurriedly asked, I have a few questions that I would like to ask. The monster that I killed, and the giant python, what are their origins? Kong Yu was slightly stunned and said in surprise, You killed the sea serpent monster without knowing who he was? Shun Lian nodded. After a moment of silence, he decided to expose Wan Yong. Just like that, Wan Yong suddenly disappeared in front of me, and then the monster appeared. He explained the general situation. Wan Yong, Wan San's son? Kong Yu's face turned gloomy and sighed. Every family has its own difficulties. Wan San was smart all his life, and earned a lot of money, but his son and daughter didn't live up to his expectations. One is more stupid than the other, and sooner or later, they will bring great trouble to his family. Then he suddenly understood. No wonder the sea serpent monster and Qi Lian appeared in this area at the same time. They were attracted by Wan Yong. Looking at the situation, Wan Yong only wanted to attract the sea serpent monster, but he also attracted the Qi Lian. After you killed the sea serpent monster, the Qi Lian couldn't hold back and came to snatch the sea serpent monster's body. Alas, after the Qi Lian swallowed the sea serpent monster, the monster's strength will increase greatly, and it will be even harder to deal with. Sea serpent monster? Qi Lian? This was the first time Shun Lian came into contact with the Wei River's river demons, and remembered these names. Seeing this, Kong Yu slowly said, The river demons are divided into many tribes. The sea serpent monster belongs to the shell armor tribe, the Qi Lian belongs to the scale armor tribe, there are also the shell armor tribe, the Wu armor tribe, and so on. The shell armor tribe's shells are very hard, and if you can't break their shells, you can't do anything to them. But your sword might is too strong, and the sea serpent's shell armor can't defend against it. He had no choice but to transform and use the water arrow goo to fight with you. But he didn't expect your close combat ability to be too strong, and he couldn't even escape. Actually, if the sea serpent monster stayed in the river and didn't come out, no one would be able to do anything to him. But this time, the sea serpent monster must have underestimated you, and was caught off guard by you. He probably died in grievance. What about the Qi Lian? Shun Lian naturally paid more attention to a demon that threatened to exterminate his 3 tribes, his eyes reflecting deep, killing intent. Kong Yu stroked his beard. That Qi Lian guy is very cunning, 10,000 times more cunning than the sea serpent monster. He has been causing trouble for over 200 years, and has harmed countless people. I have fought with him my whole life, but I have never been able to do anything to him. The middle-aged woman sighed and said, It's not that you can't beat him, but Red Viper has always been a demon in the water. When he's besieged, he'll escape through the water, leaving us helpless. Kong Yu waved his hand. Don't underestimate that Qi Lian guy. Even on land, when the demons go berserk, we have to pay a huge price to kill them. While speaking, Hua Meifei, Su Shaoling, Zhou Kai-shi and the others who were hiding in the painting building walked out with injuries all over their bodies. Many of them were bleeding, and some had broken bones. Kong Yu glanced at them and instructed, Drag the painting boat back, treat the heavily injured first. Yes. The middle-aged woman responded and jumped back to the iron-armored ship. She passed down the order, and the other side quickly got busy. Kong Yu suddenly pulled Shun Lian's hand and said enthusiastically, Little brother, you haven't stepped into the silver rank yet, is it because of the restriction of your talent? Shun Lian nodded. Indeed. Kong Yu laughed. Our new Kuan has a talent Gu that can help you ascend to the heavens. Come, come, I will bring you to receive your reward. Receive my reward. Shen Lian could not help but be overjoyed. He followed Kong Yu and jumped onto the iron-armored ship. After entering a room in the cabin, Kong Yu found a brocade box. There is a human flower Gu in this brocade box. With your talent, it should be able to help you advance to the silver rank. Kong Yu then found a jade artifact that looked like a wine jug and handed it to Shen Lian. There is primordial water inside. It should be enough for you to replenish your primordial qi. Primordial water? You don't know? Primordial water, how should I explain it? We Gu masters have primeval essence in our bodies. It is condensed from Gu, and primordial water is the primeval essence that naturally exists. Naturally exists? Shen Lian was somewhat astonished. He had been in the Gu garden for so many days, but had never heard of such a treasure in the world. Kong Yu thought for a while and said, Do you know how talent Gu is born? The environment where talent Gu is born is in a natural primordial water river. And talent Gu is a restricted resource in the Gu master's path of advancement. It has always been tightly controlled by the clans and sections. Because of this, the primordial water river is a treasure that the clans and sects fight for. It is also the foundation of the clans and sections. It can be said that if there is a primordial water river, there must be a clan or sect there. So that's it. Shen Lian understood. Kong Yu patted his shoulder and said, This room is for you. Refine the human flower Gu first, I will go out and take a look. He smiled and left. Chapter 63. The moment the brocade box was opened, a bright light overflowed from the inside. Shen Lian squinted his eyes. What entered his eyes was a dazzling ice flower. Its whole body seemed to be carved out of orange jade, surging with a mysterious and powerful aura of life. Yin and Yang nourished the 5 colors, water and fire refined the 3 flowers. This is the human flower Gu? Shen Lian saw this treasure for the first time and was slightly moved. After observing for a while, he stretched out his hand, pretending to touch it, but in reality, he only used his palm to cover it. Life-twisting Gu flashed out, circling around the human flower Gu for a while before returning to his body. The whole process only took 2 to 3 seconds. No problem, this is the real human flower Gu. Shen Lian heaved a sigh of relief, finally relaxing. His eyes shone brightly, but his heart was still calm. The human flower Gu is so precious. Kong Yu gave it to me just like that. Is it really as simple as a reward? New Kuan gave out many mission points, and this sea demon was clearly on the list, so it was not strange for the killer to get some rewards from New Kuan. But, until now, Shen Lian still had many suspicions in his heart. Along the way, he knew that Gu masters were all strange and unpredictable, so he had to be careful and not trust anyone easily. Just now they were constantly probing my strength, and I purposely did not hide it, allowing them to continue asking. But they only asked about my rank and stopped there, and did not ask me what Gu I had. The core secret of a Gu master's body was what Gu they had. Once others knew about it, they would be able to counter it, and it would be very dangerous. Kong Yu and that middle-aged woman protected this bottom line, and their actions could be considered open and aboveboard, leaving a good impression on Shen Lian. Moreover, with Shen Lian's strong intuition, he did not feel that they had any malicious intent towards him. Otherwise, he would not have followed Kong Yu to receive the reward. But Shen Lian had always been cautious, and understood that he was in the martial world. Even if he encountered something good, he had to consider it carefully. A moment later, Shen Lian pondered over it carefully and couldn't find any fault with it. The opportunity was right in front of him, and if he didn't take it, it would be a crime. Wait until I reach the silver level. With my monstrous physique, even if Kong Yu has ulterior motives, I will be able to deal with you easily. After thinking about this, Shen Lian no longer hesitated. He pricked his finger with a silver needle and dripped his blood to feed the human flower goo. I've heard that the innate venomous insect was born for humans and is very easy to refine. Generally, it can be refined within 7 days. I wonder if it's true or not. Xunlian was looking forward to it. Fresh blood dripped onto the human flower goo, and the human flower goo shook. Like the jade goo, it did not have any facial features, and its body directly absorbed the blood. Traces of blood seeped into the ice flower and soon dyed the human flower goo red. It was bright red and looked like a precious treasure. Unfortunately, after waiting for a while, there was no response. Without a choice, Xunlian could only secretly release the life-twisting goo again. As expected, with the help of the life-twisting goo, he succeeded immediately and used only 1 second to tame the human flower goo. Immediately, a gentle thought was transmitted into Xunlian's mind, causing his brain to become active. Great, the refinement is a success. Xunlian smiled happily and grabbed the human flower goo. In the next moment, the human flower goo melted on his palm like a snowflake and seeped into his skin. Xunlian immediately shivered. He only felt a wave of cold air spreading in his body, spreading to his limbs and bones. So cold! After a while, frost formed on Xunlian's eyebrows and his teeth chattered. His whole body felt like it was bathed in a storm of ice and frost, receiving some kind of mysterious stimulation. After an hour, that wave of cold air slowly subsided. Once the cold air subsided, Xunlian's body started to heat up and sweat profusely. After a while, his back was drenched in sweat. At the same time, he noticed that some black substance was excreted from his pores. This is a bit like meridians and marrow cleansing. Xunlian seemed to have understood something. His eyes flashed and he immediately stood up, taking off his outer clothes and started to exercise crazily, increasing his sweat. After an hour, Xunlian's body smelled weird. Luckily, the room was equipped with clean cold water, so he took off his clothes and washed his body. Almost at the same time he finished bathing, a familiar feeling of hunger suddenly attacked him. Haha, success! Xunlian was overjoyed and quickly took the primeval water bottle. He did not know how much to drink, so he found a wine cup and poured half a cup of primeval water and drank it in one gulp. Immediately, like strong wine in his throat, he felt a burning sensation and the surging natural primeval essence rampaged in his body. Silver-level Grandmaster Gu, an old monk meditating, exhaling the old and taking in the new, connecting the inside and outside. In his aperture, the green-copper primeval essence was continuously compressed and condensed, gradually transforming into snow-silver primeval essence. The terrifying thing was, after 10% of the green-copper primeval essence was compressed and condensed, only 1 drop of snow-silver primeval essence was obtained. After 6 to 8 hours, 100% of the green-copper primeval essence was completely converted and only 10% of the snow-silver primeval essence was left. 10 to 1 condensed. Xunlian clicked his tongue, his eyes blazing with fire. Xunlian, Gu Master, Silver Level 1. Going back to several hours ago, after Kong Yu left, he went to the deck to enjoy the wind and pondered. Vice Leader, that middle-aged woman, who Kong Yu called Bian Chanyu, walked over and said, "That's Xunlian, what do you think? There shouldn't be any problems, right?" "You think there is a problem with him?" Kong Yu said in surprise. Bian Chanyu's mouth twitched a few times and said, "A little guy with no reputation suddenly appeared out of nowhere and directly killed a Kelonian demon that so many people could not kill. No matter how I think about it, it is inconceivable." Kong Yu sighed. "Genius, this is a genius, you can only come across one by chance. After living for so long, the old man has finally met one." Bian Chanyu said worriedly, "Could he be a spy nurtured by other sex?" Kong Yu tapped his nose and laughed. "Don't forget, the old man has the dog nose Gu. His nose is very sensitive. Xunlian, I have smelled him, he is very clean. Do you know, he doesn't even know who or what Yuan is. The old man guessed that Shen Lian was born a genius in martial arts. Look at his body, he is like a monster. And the first Gu he refined must be an intelligence-type martial path Gu. Like this, when the conditions are right, he naturally advanced to his current realm. Bien Chanyu thought for a while and nodded. That is the only explanation. But after thinking for a while, he finally reacted and exclaimed, Vice Leader, we cannot let go of such a talent, we have to recruit him quickly. Kong Yu showed a sly smile and said, Just now, I took out all my assets and gave Shen Lian a human flower Gu and a bottle of primeval water. This is half a year's salary. Bien Chanyu's expression changed. Vice Leader, you didn't give it to him directly, right? Didn't you discuss the conditions first? What conditions? Just give him what he needs the most. A genius should be treated like a genius. Kong Yu waved his hand. Is this reliable? Bien Chanyu had an expression of you are not reliable. What if he runs away after eating everything, won't you cry yourself to death? Kong Yu was very confident. Shen Lian has just killed a Gui Yao and has a grudge with a Qi Lian. His family is in the north, and as long as the Qi Lian is not eliminated, he will feel uneasy. To deal with the Qi Lian, he can only join New Kuan. We can get the innate talent Gu and the primeval water for him. Watch carefully. Bien Chanyu shook his head and hesitated. I hope so, but I feel that Vice Leader is overconfident. Kong Yu laughed. Even if you don't trust me, don't you trust my nose? Huff. Shen Lian's face bloomed with a smile. The human flower Gu that could not be bought with money before was obtained without any effort. Moreover, it came at the right time, allowing him to advance to the silver rank. Let me test the power of silver primeval essence. Shen Lian pulled out his chasing wind sword and activated a thread of snow silver primeval essence. With a slight shake of the sword, the tip of the sword drew a sword flower. Miraculously, the sword flower froze in the air and did not disperse. It was like a physical object that was printed out by a 3D printer. Sword intent form. Shen Lian's mind shook and his gaze flickered. In particular, sword will was indescribably wondrous. It was often a philosophy that was comprehended and could only be understood but not explained. For example, the sword will of the overflowing rain swordsmanship strengthened the speed, the ferocity of the power, and the intensity of the divine power to the point of breaking through the horizon. The specific form of its manifestation was the rain of bullets, fast, fierce, and peerless. But in the end, the rain of bullets was only an illusory force and had not formed into a physical form, reaching the realm of miraculous creation. Until now, Shen Lian had finally succeeded in forming the sword intent. This way, my overflow rain sword can advance a step further. After the transformation, its divine might will be even stronger. Shen Lian's gaze shone as a vague sword intent slowly formed in his mind. A moment later, the iron-armored ship shook slightly and stopped, as if it had reached the shore. Shen Lian walked out of the room and happened to see Kong Yu and Bien Chanyu walking over together. Little brother, we have arrived. Get ready to disembark. Kong Yu smiled and waved his hand. Shen Lian quickly cupped his hands and smiled. Senior, thank you for giving me the human flower Gu and primeval essence water. Oh, how is it? Have you advanced? Shen Lian released a thread of snow silver primeval essence. Kong Yu took a look and a joyful smile appeared on his face as he praised. Good, good, good. Bien Chanyu's face was also filled with shock, a pleasantly surprised expression floating between her brows. This is the rest of the primeval essence water. Shen Lian had used a quarter of the primeval essence water to advance this time, so there was still a lot left in the bottle. Kong Yu pushed it back and said solemnly, This was given to you by the old man, how can you take it back? New Kuan has a lot of this stuff. Bien Chanyu's mouth twitched when he heard this. Shen Lian was so astute that he immediately noticed it. Obviously, the primeval essence water was also a restricted resource. It was not easy to obtain. At this moment, if Shunlian could not see what Kong Yu wanted to do, he would be a fool. Sure enough, after Kong Yu smiled, he suddenly changed the topic and said in a deep voice, "Little brother, you have killed the sea demon, which means you have made a deadly enemy of the Shell Demon clan. You have also offended the Qilian. This guy is even more dangerous. Even though your family is far away in Snow Ridge City, if the demon is determined to kill you, you know the consequences." Xin Lian's face darkened slightly inside. "I have already considered this matter." Kong Yu said, "Is there anyone powerful in your family, or are you related to someone powerful enough to deter the River Demon clan?" "No." Kong Yu sighed and finally revealed his thoughts. "Little brother Xinlian, I have a suggestion. I hope you can seriously consider it. Why don't you join Nu Kuan and use Nu Kuan's power to protect yourself and your family? Besides, with your talent and fighting strength, plus the recommendation of the old man and border elder Lao, you have a chance to get an elder seat and enjoy many benefits. For example, the human flower goo and the primeval water will be given to you in the form of salary every month. In Nu Kuan, only the 8 elders, 2 deputy leaders, and the leader, a total of 11 people, can get such treatment." Bien Chanyu was obviously shocked. He looked at Kong Yu with an expression that said, "You are really willing to spend a lot of money." But she thought again. A talent like Xinlian could not be recruited without spending a lot of money, so she nodded and said with a smile, "As long as you are willing to join Nu Kuan, I promise you that I will do my best to help you get an elder seat." Chapter 64. Xinlian had always wanted to step into the world of Gu Masters. Before he was strong enough, he kept a low profile and endured silently, never revealing his talents. But he had always been making preparations. Moreover, he already had a plan in his heart, to form a connection with Wan San, Lu Rui and Sister Yu. After all, he owed them a huge favor, with them taking care of him. When he stepped onto the big stage of Gu Masters, the dangers he would face would be much smaller. Unfortunately, there was a flaw in this connection because of Wan Yong. There was also the Chela demon, Qi Lian. Wan San sacrificed himself to the Chela demon for safety. This is a businessman's way of doing things, but it seems too weak. I don't like this style. If I go to Wan San, whether he is willing to take on the hatred of offending the Shell Armor clan and Qi Lian is another matter. On the other hand, Nu Kuan dares to fight and is fearless. He dares to go against the demons. What Xinlian cared about was not the elder seat that Kong Yu and Bien Chanyu mentioned, human flower goo and primordial water. These people dared to challenge the demons. It proved that they were strong enough. This was the biggest guarantee for survival in this dangerous and unpredictable world. How could Wan San's wealth compare to the strength of his fists? Thinking of this, Xinlian's heart was moved. "Kong, you are the vice leader. You are broad-minded and magnanimous. Birds of a feather flock together. I believe the leader's character is not bad." Unknowingly, Xinlian had already started to analyze the future work environment. People roamed the world. Where there were people, there was the world. No matter where you went, you had to look at the people first. The people around you determined the comfort level of the environment. For example, whether a student's studies were good or not, it had a lot to do with his family's environment, as well as the atmosphere of his class. For example, if you joined a team after you started working, and one of them asked you to serve tea and coffee, and the other asked you to work overtime, and ordered you to do whatever you wanted. They ganged up on you and blocked your promotion. They made you wake up earlier than a chicken and sleep later than a dog. Would you feel comfortable? Xinlian naturally didn't want to be sent on a suicide mission after joining Nu Kuan. How to avoid the risks involved depended on the person. With Kong Yu and Bien Chanyu's support, it was like having a vice-sect leader and an elder on his side. Plus, with his own strength, he shouldn't have a hard time in the future. After considering all the factors, Xinlian's desire to join Nu Kuan grew stronger and stronger. At this moment, Kong Yu and Bien Chanyu were a little nervous. Talents were hard to come by, and geniuses were even harder to come by. Only by being in a group with more outstanding people and forming a strong joint force could one live longer and more freely in this dangerous world. This principle was best understood by those who had experienced countless life and death situations. "I'm willing to join New Kuan." At this moment, Xin Lian's expression became firm and he suddenly opened his mouth. This made Kong Yu and Bien Chanyu excited and overjoyed. "Ha ha ha, brother, you're indeed a straightforward person." Kong Yu was overjoyed. His white beard fluttered in the wind, and he even started calling Xin Lian brother. "Brother, don't worry. This vice sect leader promises you that you won't regret this decision." Kong Yu was so excited that he grabbed Xin Lian's hand and held it tightly, as if he was afraid that Xin Lian would run away. "Let's go. I'll take you to see the sect leader now." Xin Lian walked all the way to the deck. He looked around and realized that the iron-armored ship was docked at a river mouth. There was a road along the river that led straight to a huge building that was 100 meters tall. What was even more shocking was that the huge building's exterior was the rib frame of some kind of exotic beast. A spine stretched across the sky. The spine was connected to many ribs that pierced the ground. People couldn't help but think that a huge exotic beast had once laid here and died. Its flesh and blood had gradually rotted away. And New Kuan's people used the rib frame as the foundation to build layers of buildings inside. It was like living in the stomach of an exotic beast. "Brother, that's New Kuan's headquarters. The rib frame you see is the remains of a young Kuan. We built the sect inside the Kuan's bones. This is also the origin of New Kuan's name." Xin Lian was a little speechless. He had always thought that the two words New Kuan represented some kind of spiritual aura and sounded very majestic and domineering. He didn't expect it to be like this. They really had a Kuan. The three got off the ship and walked forward side by side. Taking this opportunity, Xin Lian asked some questions. "Gu masters are divided into realms. Are there any demons?" Kong Yu nodded. "Yes, they are demons. How should I say it? Sigh, I'm not good with words. Elder Bien, please explain it to me." Bien Chanyu smiled and said, "For example, let's take a snake as an example. Before a snake gains intelligence, it is only an ordinary beast. Once it gains intelligence, it will grow rapidly and its body will continue to grow bigger. This is the first stage of a demon's growth. It is called the original form." Xin Lian pricked up his ears to listen. "Demons are different from humans. We can only grow to 2 meters tall at most. But demons can grow without limit. This means that the original form of a demon is proportional to time. The longer it lives, the bigger its body and the more terrifying its strength. Grow without limit." Xin Lian suddenly thought of the sharks on Earth. Their growth genes were different. Sharks' teeth could regenerate. Even if they were broken, they could still grow back. This made sharks the most ferocious fish in the ocean. Using this analogy, demons' growth genes were very strong. They could continue to grow and were much more terrifying than the dinosaurs in the Jurassic era. In the process of growing without limit, demons will continue to transform. For example, a snake will grow impenetrable scales, grow legs, and grow antennae on its head. Finally, it will transform into a completely different kind of demon, the dragon race. And in the process of continuous transformation, demons will obtain a common ability. That is shape-shifting. This is also the second stage of a demon's evolution. Demons can transform into human form. Compared to the original form, a demon's shape-shifting has two big advantages. First, it consumes less energy and is more conducive to storing energy. After revealing the original form will be even bigger and more terrifying. Second, demons in shape-shifting will obtain the biggest advantage of humans. They can also raise Gu, refine Gu, and use Gu to become a powerful demon Gu master. Hearing this, Xin Lian was in disbelief. There are thousands of races in the world, But only humans can refine goo? That's right. This is very inconceivable and even inexplicable. But this is the truth. Only we humans can raise goo, refine goo, and use goo. This is also the biggest reason why humans can survive until now in this world where demons are rampant. Xinlian couldn't help but fall into deep thought. The similarity between humans and shape-shifting demons should be intelligence. Could it be that goo's nature is to choose species with higher intelligence? Do demon goo masters have an advantage over us? Hearing Xinlian's question, Bian Chanyu and Kongyu glanced at each other. Their faces were filled with endless gloominess, melancholy and gloominess. Under certain special conditions, some special goo will be born. This law also applies to demons. During the process of shapeshifting, demons will often have a companion goo that is connected to the demon's aura. For example, the Shalan demon's companion goo is the water arrow goo. And after the demon shapeshifted, the companion goo will mature and evolve along with the demon's growth. Human goo masters need to spend a lot of effort and wealth to evolve the goo, but as long as the demon continues to eat, the companion goo will also evolve. Humans rely on goo to become stronger, while the companion goo relies on the demon to become stronger. Do you understand the difference? Xinlian was stunned. Doesn't that mean human goo masters can't defeat demon goo masters? From a certain perspective, the truth is this cruel. Bian Chanyu sighed. Thus, shape-shifting demons are the greatest enemies of humans. Of course, compared to demon goo masters, we also have an advantage. What advantage? Time. Humans have a lifespan of about 80 years. Compared to the almost immortal demons, we grow old and die very quickly. Some demons can take a nap for decades, but we humans will produce countless experts during this period of time. Speaking of this, Bian Chanyu introduced another crucial piece of information. Demons have a hunting cycle. They don't eat every day, but eat once in a while. The time varies from a few years to 100 years. It is enough for us humans to recuperate. Chapter 65. Demons don't eat every day. After they eat once, they will stop for a period of time. Xinlian muttered, demons really treat humans like livestock. When they are hungry, they will come out and catch some humans as food, and when they are full, they will go back to sleep. Looking at Bian Chanyu, he asked, there is another question, how many forces are there to resist the demons? Aristocratic families, sects, the imperial court, will they participate? Mentioning this, Bian Chanyu became silent, pursing his lips as if he was unable to make up his mind. Kongyu coughed lightly. Brother, you are already one of us, it is not a problem to know some secrets of the sect. Bian Chanyu thought about it and agreed. She exhaled and said slowly, the imperial court is the highest ruler of the mortal world. Even if they have thousands of soldiers and horses, they are still mortal forces. They can't fight against demons. For example, the Shalan demon you killed, this demon's shell is extremely hard. The imperial court's specially made crossbow can penetrate the city walls, but it cannot break the Shalan demon's shell. Even if the imperial court organizes 100,000 navy to suppress the Shalan demon, the result will only be a crushing defeat, and the navy will become food for the demons. This kind of thing has happened before. A crushing defeat almost led to a change of dynasty. Thus, the imperial court only cares about the matters of the mortal world. The only ones who can deal with the demons are those with special abilities, that is, us goo masters. A strong goo master can move mountains and seas, and is comparable to a huge army. And in the goo master world, aristocratic families and sects are the strongest. They have their own territories and are a group of heroes. Their core strength is usually focused on researching the goo path, and nurturing outstanding and strong goo masters, rarely moving about in the world. The ones who are more active are the external forces of the aristocratic families, the outer sect disciples of the sects, and the gangs that rely on the aristocratic families and sections. For example, New Kuan, we rely on the strongest aristocratic family in the northern lands. Family Lin. Nearly 70% of the northern lands was Family Lin's territory. After all, it was too big, and Family Lin could not manage it all. Naturally, they would need to support a certain Jianghu sect to manage it. New Kuan was in charge of half of Family Lin's territory. The resources in this territory were developed by New Kuan. We kept a portion of the income for ourselves, and most of it was handed over to Family Lin. At the same time, if there were demons causing trouble in these territories, New Kuan had to do their best to suppress and exterminate them. They had to ensure the safety of some important cities and towns, so that most of the people could live and reproduce. Family Lin will also regularly distribute some restricted resources to New Kuan, mainly talent goo and primeval water, to help the sect nurture some talents and maintain a certain level of strength. As Shun Lian listened, his brows gradually furrowed into a knot. That is to say, the strongest force in the human race that can resist the demons basically does not care about worldly affairs. Bien Chanyu nodded. Brother, you can think of the core strength of the aristocratic families and sects as the treasured sword of the hidden edge. It is precisely because of their existence that all the demons are deterred, and the demons cannot wantonly prey on the human race. Only when there is a major demon calamity would these core strength be mobilized. For example, 13 years ago, there was a demon that successfully transformed into a human. Its companion goo was the extremely rare gluttony goo. It needed to continuously consume blood to replenish itself, and the more it ate, the stronger it became. Thus, this demon continuously destroyed more than 10 villages, and then ran to the big cities to cause trouble. In a few days, it devoured 5,000 to 6,000 people, and no one could stop it. New Kuan fought with their lives on the line, but suffered heavy casualties. They had no choice but to send a request to Family Lin, and Family Lin sent 7 inner clan experts to deal with that demon together. Shun Lian understood. The so-called core strength of the aristocratic families and sects was equivalent to nuclear weapons. They were mainly used as deterrents and were rarely used. As they spoke, the 3 entered the Kuan bone. This way. Kong Yu smiled as he walked in front. Along the way, he met many new Kuan members, and they all bowed respectfully. Subordinate greets Vice Gang Leader. Greetings, Elder Kong. Greetings, Vice Gang Leader. Shun Lian discovered that Kong Yu seemed to be very popular. When the gang members saw him, their eyes were filled with sincere respect, and they all smiled from ear to ear. Soon, the 3 arrived in front of a grand door made of gold powder. Is the gang leader here? Kong Yu smiled as he asked the gatekeeper. Yes, subordinate will go inform him now. The gatekeeper opened the door lightly and entered in a flash. He quickly returned and opened the door completely. Elder Kong, the gang leader invites you in. Kong Yu turned around. Brother, wait for me here for a while. Shun Lian nodded with a light smile. Kong Yu and Bien Chanyu entered the door together. After waiting for about 15 minutes, Bien Chanyu smiled as he walked out, waving his hand. Brother, the gang leader wants to see you. Shun Lian calmed himself down, and entered an elegant room with exquisite decorations. Brother, quickly come and greet the gang leader. This room was huge, and the bedroom was connected to the study room. At this moment, in front of the study table, beside Kong Yu sat an elderly man. He had a peaceful smile, and his gaze was gentle, with a sharp glint hidden in the depths of his pupils. Shun Lian walked forward, and immediately felt a strong pressure, causing his heart to jump. A faint dragon's roar resounded, and the pressure on his body lessened by a lot. Shun Lian greets the gang leader. Shun Lian had already asked when he came. This gang leader's name was Man Boyu, a silver rank 8 Gu master, and also the strongest Gu master in New Kuan. Moreover, his Gu was also a strange Gu, with strange and unpredictable abilities. Kong Yu also specially reminded Shun Lian, if Man Boyu attacked him, he must not panic. Man Boyu sized up Shun Lian, and suddenly jumped up from behind the study table, pressing his palm towards Shun Lian's head. A strong wind blew, pressing down on Xinlian's head. Xinlian raised his chi, and was shocked to find that the green copper primeval essence in the iron jade gu's aperture could not be activated, as if there was a mysterious force sealing the aperture. So that's it. Xinlian laughed, not panicking, and raised his hand to push towards the sky. A loud sound was heard. Man-Boya's powerful palm did not have a trace of strength, and lightly patted Xinlian's palm, before returning to his seat in a flash. Good, you are indeed a genius in martial arts, a dragon among men. Man-Boya was full of energy, his old face showing a gratified expression. Xinlian's gaze flickered, and curiously asked, Gang leader, is your strange gu able to seal the primeval essence in other people's apertures? Man-Boya laughed, that's right. My gu is called Aperture Seal Gu, and can seal the primeval essence in other people's apertures, causing the gu master to instantly lose his strength. Xinlian thought as expected in his heart, and was secretly shocked. Gu masters rely heavily on gu, and the primeval essence in their aperture is the source of their strength. Man-Boya could directly seal the aperture, causing you to be unable to use your strength. Too shameless. Simply not letting you live. Man-Boya laughed. Of course, the aperture seal gu is not omnipotent, it only has the ability to seal gu that have opened the aperture, and has no effect on other types of gu, such as the body fusion type gu. That is enough to make most of the gu masters in the world cry for their parents. Xinlian's mouth twitched, thinking to himself that I only have 2 apertures in my body, and if you seal them all at once, my battle strength will be reduced by half. Man-Boya waved his hand and frankly said, Don't think that the aperture seal gu is miraculous, but it also has a huge flaw. The aperture seal gu can seal the apertures in other people's bodies, and similarly, it also has a restrictive effect on me. Thus, from the moment I chose the aperture seal gu as my main advancement gu, I was destined to only have 1 aperture in my body. Xinlian suddenly understood. The power was miraculous, but the price was not small. Kong Yu coughed and urged, Big brother, you have seen him, quickly give me a straightforward answer. Let me say this first, I promised brother Xinlian an elder position, and he agreed to come. If you don't agree, then you can say that I went back on my words. Man-Boya disdainfully said, In terms of shamelessness, if you say you are number 2 in the world, no one would dare to say they are number 1. Kong Yu said righteously, I don't care about any sect rules, New Kuan is after all the number 1 sect in the north, how can a dignified vice leader go back on his word? This elder position must be given. Chapter 66. Man-Boya didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was speechless and rolled his eyes at Kong Yu. He sighed and said, 7 of the 8 elders are missing. Who knows how many people in the sect are eyeing this position. Some of them have outstanding military achievements and are willing to work hard without complaint. They have been waiting for more than 10 years. It's their turn to be ranked. Xinlian is a newcomer and has no reputation. If he suddenly occupies the position that everyone covets, it would be strange if the others don't make a fuss. How can they convince the others? He tilted his head and looked at Kong Yu. Third brother, don't tell me you have a grudge against Xinlian. Why are you pushing him into the fire pit? Kong Yu stomped his feet anxiously. How can the position of elder be a fire pit? As long as Big Brother supports it, plus me, Elder Bian, Su Fu, Liang Qizhu, and Bu Lingkong, together with the recommendation, who would dare to oppose it? You're oversimplifying things. Don't forget, someone is determined to get the position of elder. Man-Boya pressed his hand down and suddenly said with deep meaning. Kong Yu's breathing paused when he heard that. His expression turned serious. Bian Chanyu's expression also changed. Xinlian didn't have much ambition for the position of elder. But when he said this, a black vortex slowly formed and floated above Man-Boya's head. Disaster, Xinlian couldn't help but squint. He was the leader of New Kuan. Disaster actually befell him. Could it be that someone was trying to usurp power? If someone is trying to usurp the throne, I have to encourage and provoke them to earn a lot of deceit points. Xin Lian's eyes burned with passion. Leader, I'm a newborn calf who is not afraid of tigers. I want to try jumping into this fire pit. Man Boyu's eyes flashed. He looked deeply at Xin Lian and suddenly laughed. He clapped his hands and said, "Good. But you have to think carefully. When the time comes, you will be attacked by many people." Man Boyu suddenly reminded him. Xin Lian said domineeringly, "A soldier who doesn't want to be conferred the title of Marquis or King is not a good soldier." Hearing this, the man Boyu slapped his thigh. The bell rang 3 times. This was Nu Kuan's signal to gather all the elders and above. Not long after, the 7 elders, the 2 vice-sect leaders, and the sect leader were all present in the main hall of the meeting hall. "Sect Master, why have you suddenly summoned us?" His subordinate was slightly anxious. "I am refining Gu, it is a crucial period, I cannot leave for too long, please forgive me." The man Boya chuckled and gestured with his hand. "I called you here because I have something to tell you." He paused and his gaze flashed across everyone's faces. Just recently, the sea serpent demons that have plagued the Wei River for more than 150 years have been killed. What? There's actually such a thing. The heavens have eyes. Our Nu Kuan had close to 300 heroes who died under the sea serpent demons. They can finally rest in peace. Oh, the river demon clan is hidden deep in the water, and has always been the hardest to kill. Who has the ability to kill the sea serpent demons? The main hall was in an uproar, everyone was agitated. The man Boya saw this and laughed loudly. The person who killed the sea serpent demons is not a member of Nu Kuan. His surname is Xin Lian, 18 years old, a silver-grade Gu master. The sound of people gasping could be heard in the world. 18 years old silver-grade. Everyone was shocked, some were even in disbelief. The man Boya clapped his hands. Immediately, everyone heard footsteps at the entrance of the main hall and turned to look. They saw a handsome young master walking over. His figure was tall and straight, he was elegant and outstanding, his eyes shining with brilliance. At once, everyone was curiously sizing him up. Xin Lian greets everyone. The person who came was indeed Xin Lian. His entrance was like a rehearsal, it was just right to enter people's hearts and leave a deep impression on everyone. The man Boya laughed. "I have a joyous news to share with everyone, Xin Lian intends to join our Nu Kuan." Once he finished speaking, all kinds of praises could be heard in the main hall. "Good, welcome, welcome. Xin Lian's heroic appearance is unparalleled genius, he is indeed a hero. The reason why Nu Kuan can dominate the Jianghu in the north is because geniuses like little brother Xin Lian are continuously joining us. This is a joyous news." When the time was right, the man Boya raised his eyebrows and asked with a smile, "Xin Lian killed a Shalan demon and has outstanding merits. He is also a heavenly genius, a silver-grade Gu master. What do you all think about his position arrangement?" Once he finished speaking, Bian Chanyu immediately said, "Wei River is within my jurisdiction, I admit that I cannot kill a Shalan demon, but I have an elder position, I am ashamed. If it were up to me, I would give Xin Lian an elder position." Hearing this, the originally harmonious atmosphere instantly cooled down. 2 elders suddenly felt thirsty. They lowered their heads and sipped on their teacups. Today's tea seemed to have a special taste. The faces of the other 4 elders quickly darkened. They frowned and kept exchanging glances with each other. The main hall was silent for a long time, no one made a sound. The other vice leader, Su Fu, had been yawning from the start and was drowsy, showing an expression of, "I am enjoying my retirement, don't disturb me." At this time, Kong Yu lightly coughed and said, "Heroes do not care about their age, whoever can kill a demon is a true hero. I support Elder Bian's suggestion." I also think it is a good idea." Man Boyu stood out at this time and decided on his opinion. "Leader, this is not appropriate." Suddenly, An elder with long eyebrows anxiously jumped out. Chao Yuqing, what's wrong? Kong Yu was not surprised and looked coldly at him. He knew the other party had always wanted his son Chao Qing to sit on the elder position. Shen Lian is a new member. Although he has made a lot of contributions, he is still inexperienced and not familiar with the affairs of the faction. He still needs some time to practice. If we push him to a high position in such a hurry, I am afraid it will be difficult to convince the others. Chao Yuqing was wearing a green robe and had a malicious face. His voice was filled with anger. In an instant, the black vortex above Man Boyu's head became bigger. Shen Lian finally understood the situation. These people were divided into 3 groups. Man Boyu, Kong Yu, and Bian Chanyu were in one group. The 4 elders led by Chao Yuqing were in one group. The others were in the neutral group. Chao Yuqing and these backbones are forming a clique for their own selfish interests and are trying to make Man Boyu a figurehead. They are very ambitious. Shen Lian's mind was clear. As expected, as soon as Chao Yuqing spoke, the other 3 elders all agreed. Leader, you want to recruit talents for the faction, but you should also consider the elders in the faction. They have worked so hard for the faction for so many years. How can they be inferior to a new member of the younger generation? That's right. The faction has long had rules. The promotion channels are clearly stated. If we break the rules and promote him like this, it is tantamount to ignoring the rules. How can we ask the members to follow the rules in the future? Leader, please think twice. If you start this, it will cause chaos. The 3 elders said one after another, with a look of dissatisfaction. Man Boyu was not surprised at all. He waved his hand and was about to say something when he heard a sneer.